put the children to bed. It's time for Dan and Aldo to bare their souls.
I love the Chicago Bears more than I do masturbating, and that is a lot.
Then, with 3 seconds left, Bob Avellini throws a 30-something yard touchdown pass to Greg Latta, and the Bears win, and I literally shit my pants. I swear to God, I literally did.
Eric Kramer, for me, I love the guy. He's a tragic figure. I mean, he embodies all that is.
If they don't run the ball here, I'm going to vomit. I swear to God.
Look, I don't mean any disrespect. He just didn't play that well. Not for a guy of his caliber.
You know, they won, but I'm going to be miserable all week because they stunk.
I don't really have any recollection of that at all, but I guess perhaps I blacked it all out.
So, Dan, tape is the ultimate tool for scouts and for coaches to evaluate players, to detect plays and so forth. And they spend hours looking at tape, right? Why do they so often get shit wrong?
I love the efficiency of bourbon.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dan and Aldo.
Dan Aguirre, how are you?
Now, the most important question is, how are you? A week later, another week of healing.
You know what? I got to tell you, right now, the biggest thing on my mind is that my wife is really pissed off at me.
Well, that's good. I'll tell you why that's good. Because you've gotten back to a level of normalcy to where she thinks you're going to be okay. If she thought you were going to be in danger, she wouldn't be mad at you, right?
No,
That's my spin.
Here's what happened. Like about 10 minutes before we're going on air, you sent me a message. I should be on time and so forth. And I had like a little bit of a marijuana cigarette here in the ashtray. I said, wow, I haven't smoked in a couple of weeks or whatever it's been. And so I lit it up. I took a puff and I put it down. And so I went upstairs to get some water. And she's like, did you smoke downstairs? And man, she got so pissed. I had to yell at her saying, I'm going to go on the air in 5 minutes. Do we really want to have this fight now?
But doesn't weed make you feel better?
Yeah, it's supposedly good for, anxiety, which I tend to suffer from time to time. But it's not good for your lungs and your vascular system, which is my problem.
I didn't know that. Not being a weed guy, I didn't know that. So
yeah, it's any kind of smoking. And in fact, the cardiologist at the hospital when I went on, she said it's not the marijuana, it's this thing. You're inhaling these fumes when you are smoking from a pipe or a marijuana.
What about like an edible or something then?
Yeah, and I've thought about that, but edibles are so unpredictable. You take one and you don't know. It's not like a marijuana cigarette. You could take a puff. Okay, I know. You take an edible, and then 2 hours later, you're still feeling it, and then all of a sudden it hits you.
And then you're waving your sore arm in the air.
Exactly.
You're like, what have I done?
Yep. The other thing I want to announce is my hand is getting better, but it's still not at the point where I feel really comfortable masturbating. So that's.
But you're lefty anyway.
Yeah, I am lefty, but how do I hold the pornographic material? I need
seriously, back, not to get into a huge sex story, because we're talking Bears tonight, but like I got it for the first time when I was 14, twice, and didn't get it again until I was 16. Mm-hmm. And that was a long 2 years in between. And what I would do a lot of times during that duration was I'm right-handed. So I would beat off left-handed and pretend it was a girl doing it, because they kind of don't know what they're doing. So it's just like, you could pretend that it was a woman doing it when you couldn't get with a woman.
That's hilarious.
That's true. The left hand is useless. I can't do much with it.
I gotta isolate that. I had a relaxing time this afternoon, grabbing sound bites for us to react to, and then I came to Robert Tunyon when he was asked the question, "How have you and PJ Walker? Have you given him advice and stuff?" He injected this into his response.
The other day we were doing like, tubs and sauna together.
When you get into town next week, you and I are going to do tubs and sauna together.
Man, I had a friend from Finland. He moved to Seattle, so I never saw him again. He was a policeman locally, but he was always saying, "Oh shit, man, over in Europe, that's what we do." I don't know why I made him sound more like Phil, but he was like a European accent. It was strange. He always joked and said he sounded like the guy from the Human Centipede, but yeah, but he was always like, "Yeah, it's nothing for me and my friends to get naked and go to the sauna together." I was like, wow, that's not really a part of my culture here. It's not on my radar.
Yeah. When I grew up in the Humboldt Park area, when I moved in the late 60s, it was still predominantly Eastern European, and they used to have a very popular Turkish bath on North Avenue. And as a kid, you always wonder, I seen like a scene of it in a movie and stuff, but I wonder what it's like really inside. And people would tell me, it's just all bums nowadays. It's not like it was in the 50s and stuff. But I still wanted like to sneak in and see it for myself. A Turkish bath, a Turkish sauna, with all the steam and big fat guys, with big noses sitting down and getting a steam. To me, I found it fascinating. Clearly, you don't.
The Kennedy brothers. That's how they kept their weight off, because they drank a lot. They were slaying some of the I'm just going to say they were getting a lot of pussy. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And so they were drinking a lot. So reportedly, that's what Bobby and Jack would do after a heavy night of drinking. They'd go in that steam room for like 2 hours and sweat out all that alcohol so they wouldn't gain any weight.
Yeah, that's the way it was back then. Tubs and sauna, man, when you get in town.
Hey, I'm just glad that you're excited about me coming. A few weeks ago, I was worried, that, man, he may not be able to hang around me at all. He might not be well enough. So I'm glad that you're back. You're not 100%. You're kind of like, who's somebody that's you're Tevin Jenkins now. You're gonna
that's right.
You're gonna go to the IR tomorrow, but we expect you back in 4 weeks.
That's a good analogy.
Thank you.
Jordan, clearly I knew. Yes, thanks for pointing out. Jordan said something about Travis Gibson today. Tweeted out, "Thank you, Bears fans, blah, blah, blah." And then the second tweet was, "By the way, I did not ask for a trade request." God. And so Jordan said, "That's a great way to, I forgot what Jordan said, but I said, I don't think he was sticking it to the Bears when Travis said that. I think he was either sticking it to Jeremy Fowler or just trying to let his fans know that he really didn't ask for this or whatever." And so Jordan thought my response to him was that I was angry or something, but not at all, Jordan.
Well, let me ask you a question. Forget all that, because that's going to be another one of those Bears things, why didn't Roquan play for the Minnesota game? We'll never know. It's one of those history of mysteries kind of thing. But
gotta get Jeff Pearlman on the caper.
Exactly. But didn't 99 play well enough to where you would say, okay, we're not cutting you? Why do you have to? Why cut him? Like, is he that upset that he's insisting on a chance to start somewhere? Well, wouldn't you just say, look, we have your rights this year. You've earned a spot. We need you.
Well, let's listen to Alan Williams, defensive coordinator of Chicago Bears. This was yesterday. He was asked, how does this process go about when choosing who to cut?
What goes into that? And really, it's just what you said, a full evaluation. Evaluating OTAs, evaluating how they do in practice, evaluate how they do in the preseason games, who they go against in practice, where their production comes from. Is it first, second, third down? Who's across from when they have that production? Is it, hey, right now? Is it a production that's, a hustle production, or did they beat a guy right now and how good that guy was? So, and it's cumulative. How consistent are they with that part of it and their other assignments? So it's a full evaluation. We just don't go, hey, sack, 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 or tackle, tackle, tackle. We dive into that production, see what it looks like, and make decisions. What's best for the unit? What's best for the team?
Wow.
Sounds to me like Gibson might be a dick. The coaches don't like him.
Or they're like, you're only beating the third team guys out there.
Yeah.
You're not doing anything, Gibson.
Yep.
Wow.
And he maybe doesn't have that attitude. Now somebody, and we'll talk about this on Greg Gabriel Talks Football tomorrow at 3 p.m. We're going to look at the practice squad players and so forth. And we'll get to all the roster cutdowns today in just a moment. But tomorrow, I'm going to ask Greg, because he might have gotten some reliable information about Gibson's attitude and about, does Gibson think more of himself than the coaches think of him? Is he kind of not prima donna, but very egocentric, perhaps? So I'll talk to Greg about that, because that's some information that may have come down the pipe. That
You almost have to be about yourself to a certain extent, though. If you don't believe in yourself, then you're not going to make it anyway. So it's a catch-22.
Right. And I just think it might depend on how you express that, but you're absolutely right. You got to believe you're the best. Now, you just started your high school football highlight show on Friday, and you clearly are one of the best. You've won an award for that show 5 of the 6 years.
7 of the last 8.
Sorry, I just had a
you smoked weed. It's okay. No, but it's just West Virginia. It's not anything that big, but for locally, I put a lot of effort into it. Yes.
Yeah. So do you ever, carry yourself in a way where, station management says, man, this guy's really fucking in love with himself?
No, because I'm always afraid that if I don't put the effort in this year, I'm not going to win this year or something. Mm-hmm. And this year is the first time I've had a guy with me. Mm-hmm. And he's young. He's, wanted a break in broadcasting. He's driving 2 hours just to work with me. Mm. And he's never been on air before. And last Friday was our first shift together. And I think for a first shift, we did fine. But overall, in the scheme of things, I'm still worried about how to implement him. How's the show going to improve with him and how to make him shine? So I'm worried about that cohesion. As you know, when we started working together, you just come off the other show. It takes time. So I think he's good for me right now in the sense the way you thought Nomad and Dan would be for us earlier in the year, because you just don't want to get stale.
Right. Well, I've listened to the tapes that probably 3 of the tapes that you submitted for nomination for the awards, and they were just freaking outstanding, man. Really good.
Thank you, man. I put a lot of heart into it. I've already broken down 6 of 16 matchups, and it's only Tuesday. And as you see, I write them out like it could have been on a teleprompter, but then I write it intentionally like an English paper so that I can't read it, because you don't read it on air the way you would write a paper, but that keeps me focused too. That's my style.
I once read an article about that. A good way to learn is to write out everything that you were taught at the lecture or whatever, and it helps you retain that information.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100% agreed. It makes you might be like, who's that coach again? But after you write it a few times, you're like, oh, okay, I know him. He used to coach here and his dad coached there. And like you said, you retain it that way.
Yep. All right. Before we get to the cut downs, I do want to talk about a particular topic that actually Dan made me think about throughout since he texted me on Sunday about it. Dan told me that he was concerned about the Chicago Bears, and he doesn't remember coming into a season with this type of concern. I'm paraphrasing what you said. Why don't you take it from there, Dan?
I had a bunch of negativity last night, but it wasn't negativity to be negativity. It was my own angst. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of people immediately are going to shout and say, it's just a preseason. What are you talking about, Dan? You're a meathead, Look, man, if I drove my car to Illinois, and I said, I'm packing up my stuff and I'm going there because I'm a Bears fan and I've had it here. And on the way, I'm like, I don't care what happens. I don't care if the car starts to overheat. I'm going to Illinois, and that's all that matters. You have to acknowledge your stimuli and the variables along the way. So the preseason, albeit not the Super Bowl, is something that you have to judge along the way. It might be you're studying for your SAT test somewhere along the lines. I made the analogy last night, like NASCAR. They worked the whole offseason to get that car ready for the first race to Daytona, and they're ready to go. Back when Say Ditka was coach, the preseason was used as a tool to get you in shape and to have you firing on all cylinders in week one. In today's culture, we get to week one and we're just trying to figure it out because the players haven't played together. They've only the Fields has thrown like 6 passes. The line hasn't played together. The safeties weren't playing. So yeah, I'm worried, man, because the defense, I know, is just a preseason game. They did what they always do. It doesn't matter if it's Khalil Mack. They give up a touchdown seemingly on the first drive of the game if they're playing the 08 Lions or the 72 Dolphins. They always give up a touchdown. They did it again. Fields comes out doing the same stuff, apparently not getting the right read, holding the ball too much, getting hit. And then the line's always in flux with this team. So I felt like they had an entire summer to get ready for Green Bay, and it feels like it's the same old shit. Now, that doesn't mean they can't come out and beat Green Bay, and I desperately want them to. However, if those 3 games were tested in the offseason, they failed those tests. They did. I know Fields threw the 2 screens for scores in the first game, and we loved that. And he didn't even play the second game. And then he looked bad Saturday. He did. He looked bad. I would have taken him out after he got hit too, by the way. And that was good for Bagent to have to come in on short notice. Hey, get in there. Fields is down. Thank God he wasn't hurt. But do you have any concern with me like that at all? It's got to matter a little bit, right? I know it's not the regular season. It's not the playoffs, but it's along the way a test to help you get ready for the Packers.
I think what you expressed there was very eloquent, and there's a lot of people in the chat room who are agreeing with you that they have very similar takes and concerns. By the way, John Santucci is now going to take over the chat room. So if you see a comment from the Barroom Network, it is John. He is backstage. He will be doing Bear State of Affairs in about 30 to 45 minutes. But I totally agree with you. And what was so concerning to me was the performance of Justin Fields on Saturday. Now, I understand they were playing vanilla, but I watched, the coaches, the QB school, JT O'Sullivan, former NFL quarterback. This is an outstanding YouTube and Patreon page look at all of the quarterbacks in the NFL. And it's not absolutely perfect because he will admit this himself that he doesn't know what the coaches is calling. He doesn't know what was taught to this player. Should he go this way or that way or whatever? But there are some things that he listed in his last video, an 18-minute video on YouTube, that when you look at, I immediately thought of you. Check this out.
Next one here, 3rd and 11. This one's rough. I don't know what we're doing here. Middle field open. We've got someone running to the middle of the field. It's open. We have to throw that. There's no reason to bail. The protection is good. We got 7-person protection. It's open. We have to throw this ball down the middle of the field. Why are we going? Why are we leaving? Where are we going? I get it. He's a dynamic athlete. He can go get it himself. It's 3rd and forever. It's the preseason. The guy is open down the field. I like the fact that you get out of bounds, protect yourself, but come on. Again, watch the slot down here to the bottom. I mean, you're not going to get a more open look than this in the NFL.
Forget about the scheme. I know people are criticizing Luke Getsy, and we'll get to that in a minute. But that is the same shit that happened last year. I remember watching a tape of Kurt Warner saying, and I said it on this show, what was the expression now? I forgot. Throw the ball.
Right.
Replay after replay, that all 22 angle. Throw the ball. The guy's there. This is not college where he's going to be this open. He's going to be this open. Throw the ball. That's what we saw against the Colts. Forget about the scheme and why they weren't calling Vanilla. That we'll talk about later. But that is what worries me about Justin Fields. And I love Justin Fields. Look, I made that fucking picture of him over there, and I got pictures of him throughout. And one of my prized possessions is a jersey that Dan Aguirre bought for me. I have nothing but hope and prayers that Justin Fields is going to finally be that franchise quarterback, please. But Tyson Bagent has looked better this preseason. I know it was against the threes. I know it was against the twos, but he's looked better. Imagine how he might look with DJ Moore, with Chase Claypool, with Darnell Mooney. We won't get to see it unless Justin Fields gets an injury, and I don't want that to happen. But I am curious about how this young stud, who looks like he's got all of the fucking mechanics down, awareness, leadership abilities, how might he compare against Justin Fields? Because I'm seeing the same mistakes that I saw last year with Justin Fields and in his rookie year.
Yeah, I am a Fields fanatic. I think I've got 4 jerseys. I always say that because I don't want people to think that I'm one of these guys that thinks Bagent should start week 1. That, to me, I'm not that. I'm not saying that's crazy, but I disagree with it. I'm not saying you're saying that either. Mm-hmm. But it's okay to criticize your quarterback.
Of course.
We're not supposed to just sit here and lick his ass, So I'm concerned because the whole team looked the same as they did last year. And there have been upgrades all around. I know people were hurt, people were out, but the team looked the same, flat. They were flat coming out like they always are. Going back 4 coaches now. It feels like we have never, like when we were in Cleveland together, we were like, why are the Bears just kind of standing around? The Browns are firing off the ball and beating the shit out of each other in the pregame. The Bears are just kind of standing there. You're like, you pointed out, you're like, boy, don't they look flat. And that carried over into the game immediately. It's just like, what are they doing? Now, someone will say, you weren't there. You weren't in camp. You don't know what you're talking about. All of that's true. But we can still watch the tape. We're told it doesn't lie. So we watched the game live. And you saw what you saw. Again, there's no improvement. And that's something to stress about. I'm sorry, it is. I was worried about the Packers anyway. I didn't understand where all these Bear fans were poking their chest out saying, we're going to win by 30 on opening day. But now I'm even more worried because we're going to have a line that hasn't played together the whole summer. Davis hasn't played the whole summer. I mean, how much stamina could he have? You got Braxton Jones still out there the whole time. Motherfucker's a man. You're going to have a left. You think you have Whitehair. You think you have Patrick. It might be the guy they just drafted. You may have Davis, and you may have the rookie who's overcoming an ankle. So you got a line that's trying to figure it out. You got safeties that haven't played. You've got linebackers that haven't played together. Who's to say they're going to be and have synchronicity against the Packers?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. These are all legitimate concerns. I'm actually very, very proud of you, Dan, because you are always questioning the Bears, and I think it's excellent that you do. For instance, I wouldn't want to do this show with you if you were always agreeing with me. That wouldn't be fun. We have to disagree, as long as we do it respectfully. And sometimes,
of course,
your criticisms of the Bears rub me the wrong way because I don't think that you're giving the player in question time to grow. You don't acquire a player and expect the guy to play great right away. And so, for instance, with Cole Kmet, you and I disagreed on that. Please give him time. And so I got to the point where finally,
right.
Well, hopefully, right? For year 4, it could be a disaster. And then I'll be saying you were right. So, but I love the fact that how you are questioning, how you're expressing this concern about the team, I think is right on. Now, regarding in that tape, the quarterback schools tape, JT O'Sullivan, again, he does excellent work.
He played where Favre played, I think.
Yeah, right. He played with the Packers.
No, I meant the same college. College of
Mississippi, wasn't it Mississippi?
Yeah, I think he's from down there. Like I think he replaced Favre in college there. But go ahead.
What pro team did he play for?
Was it New Orleans? I think he went around. He may have bounced around a little bit, but I think he played. I think he was the guy that replaced Favre at that school.
Ah, okay. All right. So he, in that 18-minute tape that's posted on YouTube at the quarterback school, you will see him being critical of Luke Getsy. I thought it was a little bit unfair, but because you're always calling a vanilla offense in preseason. You don't want to give anything away. You're 2 weeks away from playing the Packers. You're not gonna start.
Does that piss you off too? I don't mean to interrupt your train of thought.
No, it's all right.
Again, I know it's two different eras, but we weren't exactly a juggernaut when Greg Landry was our OC, but the Bears at least. Look, everyone's going to see your offense by week 2 anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's on film because you're going to run everything you can against Green Bay. Then why not just play your normal offense in the preseason and try to get rhythm and say, the heck with it. If they see it on tape, fuck it. We're going to try to stop it because we're going to execute better than you because we're trying right now in the preseason because this matters. And come week 1, the car's ready to run on that track instead of like, oh, we're just putting on tires. And I'm using the racing analogy, but to me, they shouldn't do the vanilla thing. Just run your offense and don't worry about other people seeing your plays. Have your guys execute better than them.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you why that's happening, because they put much more emphasis on what happens in practice. Those 2 practice sessions they had with the Colts, that was the most important evaluation tool and practice tool that the Bears have done all preseason, even better than anything they did in the OTAs or leading up to training camp, because they really valued that much more than when, Ditka was coach. It is, they don't want to put their players in harm's way, which is why they reduce the amount of snaps that they play, and they are hypersensitive. I mean, they stopped Greg Braggs from videotaping at Lake Forest those videos because they were so concerned that the play would get out there and that there would be Mike McCarthy, head coach of the Green Bay Packers, studying the play that Greg Braggs shot. It's become so conservative now, so
and you're so right, but the irony is the plays they're going to call, we've all seen anyway. That bubble screen to Mooney, which will be DJ Moore now, but they're going to call that. They're going to do that end around. They ran it constantly with Webster. You're going to see that. You're going to have little Mooney running the end around, even though we shouldn't have him taking unnecessary shots. But they're going to run the same plays they've been running, is my point.
Yep, you're absolutely right. They're going to run those very same plays. The blocking schemes on those wide receiver screens are not going to change. It's going to be the same. And maybe Jordan, who knows a lot more about the technical aspects of football, can comment on that. Those bubble screens, the blocking is the same in April when they install it to the preseason game, and it will be in week 13 of the NFL season. So anyway, I just want him to fucking hit the open man. I want him, and Jordan again said something hit the nail right on the head, that it's just not the throws. I should have saved it. Did I save it? No, it's just not the throws. It's the lack of anticipatory throws. And that's the weird thing, because at Ohio State now, guys were a little bit more open, but he was anticipating things on the field, processing them a lot faster than he is with the Bears. My heart's going to sink. My heart's going to sink on Sunday if he has all the same mistakes that he had in 2022. It's going to sink.
Ed Obranovich says that he's unable to read the offense beyond the first 2 men. He's like, he's no better than Trubisky at learning how to go to his 3rd or 4th man. He's like, if for some reason the first man isn't open, he's just going to take off running, because that's all he can do. Now, do I agree with that? No, but Ed's a world champion. Ed's a Chicago Bear Hall of Famer. His opinion has to be valued.
Absolutely.
I'm concerned. I feel like for my whole life, Aldo, I've been making excuses for the Bears quarterback. You know, we can't, like whenever Jim McMahon was playing and Tom Zach would win, I'd be like, oh, we got to get Jim back in there. It didn't even feel as meaningful. And no offense to Mike. And then, oh, Steve Walsh is winning. Well, I want Kramer in there. Josh McCown's winning. I want Jay Cutler in there. And I was always saying, like, well, Jay's footwork is getting better. He's going to quit throwing off his back foot and all this. And he never did. He never did. I love Jay, but it's not like he ever like improved beyond what we saw. Rex, I don't want Kyle Orton out there. I got to have Rex out there. I don't want to do that now. If Fields doesn't get the job done, I don't care if it's Tyson Bagent or Nathan Peterman or some other veteran that they talked about today, whoever this vague veteran could be. If we win, we win. I want to be happy with it. I want Justin to improve and be everything that he's projected to be. But if he's not, I don't want to die on the sword this time. Like I felt like I died with Cutler each week whenever he didn't excel. Like a little part of me died every week. You know, if Fields doesn't have it, we gave up on Mitch really quickly. Then the heck with it.
Yeah,
I want him to be the guy, but if he's not, he's not. I just want to win.
Exactly. This is a critical year. Now, JT O'Sullivan was critical of Luke Getsy and that same videotape. And so Robert Tunyon addressed, you know, how the offense has looked in these preseason games. And this is going to be of great interest to you, Dan. He addressed how that offense has looked and why.
When you get in the season, you're game planning to win. I mean, as weird as it sounds, like you're just running base stuff in the preseason, and you're not like, I mean, yeah, you're trying to win with the plays you're running, but you're not like scheming up to be successful and win the game and so on. So I think you'll see a lot more of, you know, the creation and the creative side of, you know, Luke, and you'll get to see Justin be more of that playmaker that he is. And, you know, the weapons that we went out and got in the off season are going to be able to make plays and go out and show themselves. I think the most that any of the starters was playing was like 15 to 20 plays. So, and those guys are going to be playing, you know, 50 to 60. So I think just as we get moving on and the more plays that we play, players are around each other more, we'll just ascend.
I take umbrage with that.
Okay, please go ahead, because that's what I was going to ask you.
Because you love Mahomes, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we were in Kansas City right now and they said, you know what, we're not really running any plays, we don't want to risk getting Mahomes hurt, he's just going to sit on the sidelines until September 10th or whatever day he's playing, I'd be like, well, fuck, he's earned it. He's shown that he can do that. He can turn it on. He can turn it off whenever damn well he pleases. Okay. This team was 3-14, 3 wins and 14 losses. They've shown nothing on the field or coaches to give you confidence to think they can just turn it on whenever they want to. So for them to say, and I like Tanya, maybe he's talking about himself and not making that stupid little drop, half-assed effort that he had there in the flat. He just doesn't look right wearing 18 either. He's a tight end, man. He looks like a little wide receiver. Give him 88 for God's sake. But
I don't mind it, but go ahead, please.
Oh, I don't like it. But I just don't think a team that has everything to prove can suddenly just be like, oh, we're not really trying this summer, but we'll be okay September 10th.
Yeah, and I don't think he is necessarily saying that. He's just saying the play calling was vanilla on purpose, that you're going to see Luke Getsy's creativity. Now, he's concerned. I've seen probably a dozen player interviews over the last 2 weeks. The players are concerned that, you know, there's been so many injuries and that the offensive line is in the condition that it is, and that Tremaine Edmonds, who was it that was talking today, one of the linebackers or defensive lineman, and was saying, it was Billings. Andrew Billings said that he, you know, it really hurt not having Tremaine Edmonds in practice, calling out the different defensive audibles, so that he could hear that voice, so that he could see and recognize why he's doing it and not doing it, and his cadence, because sometimes the crowd is so loud that if he calls out a defensive signal and 80% of it is drowned out by the noise, he could still make out what Edmonds is saying because he's gotten used to the cadence. He talked about how important that is. And the Bears don't have that. And so your concerns about going into week one, I buy, because there just has not been that cohesion, that chemistry, even in practice. Forget the games. In practice, that's important to be able to work with one another and talk about it afterwards. But the guy is fucking in the tubs and sauna.
I mean, and
I gotta have that ready.
this is the admittedly the meatball in me, I guess, because that's the term everybody uses now in vogue, is that you're a meatball fan. But I keep making this NASCAR analogy. Week one against Green Bay to me equals the Daytona 500. This isn't just another game. This game represents, 30 years of being dominated by this one team. Here's your chance to grab a hold of that rivalry and start anew. You can't treat it like it's just, it's the fourth preseason game, and if we don't win it, we'll be okay. We've got 16 other games. Like, this one's important, man. I want them to fucking feel it. Like, I know George McCaskey feels it. I know Virginia feels it. They hate it as much as we do losing to them. But it seems like since Lovey was here, none of the coaches that we have after that really give a shit or care about the rivalry. And that bothers me. They need to win, man. Yep.
And, it bothers me that they, are not comfortable talking shit about the Packers leading up to the game. Kyler Gordon was asked about Jordan Love, and he was respectful. I don't really have much to say about him and so forth. I can't wait to get back to the 85 Bears days when Steve McMichael was saying Green Bay sucks at a press conference, and just there was so much confidence and bravado and testosterone and big ballism that I want that from my home team. I don't like
if Mongo makes it to the hall physically, if he's there, he'll probably say something on his deathbed there about Green Bay. He'll be like, and the Packers still can eat my ass or whatever. He'll probably still say something like that. And he's riddled with Lou Gehrig's disease, and he's 100 pounds now, and he still feels that way.
Right.
By the way, so do I.
You got a response from somebody, was it Dan Pompei, about McMichael's condition?
Yes. I asked Dan because he talked about it after the show last week. I mean, we were concerned, like, does Mongo really know? Is he cognizant of what's happening? And Dan Pompei said, yes, he's completely aware of what's going on, and he's extremely excited.
Good. All right. That's great. All right. I want to do this. Tooch is going to join us in about 20 minutes, and the media mashup is actually 20 minutes long. So let's play that. And then Tooch will, around that time, immediately after or a few minutes afterwards, we'll come in and do State of the Affairs. And then we'll talk about all the cuts and blah, blah, blah. So here comes media mashup for August 29th.
Kind of interesting that you're trading a draft pick at this point in the season to secure someone that can line up for your team.
Well, they've got some pretty good picks already in place for next season. So you talk about, a day 3 pick to get a guy that can come in and help you out. And I can understand that. I can understand that move. I think people were wondering if that type of move was going to be necessary based on kind of where they're at with depth on the offensive line. And they had to make a decision, and that's, okay, do they pull the trigger on a move here when another team could potentially be in place to trade for Feeney, or once Feeney is cut, because that's the way it looked like it was headed in Miami, he becomes a free agent. Being number 1 in the waiver wire doesn't do you any good for Dan Feeney because he's a vested veteran. So at that point, you've got and he's a hometown guy. Maybe you win that easily if there's a couple teams involved. A Sandberg graduate before he went on to play at Indiana, but money could be involved then too. So I think it clearly a guy that they feel can help them out because they make a move for a trade when they could have looked at, a solid dozen linemen later today after cuts of all the teams are released.
Brad, what does this say about the Bears' belief that maybe Tevin Jenkins is going to be out for a while, maybe a lack of confidence that Lucas Patrick will stay healthy, or maybe even Nate Davis? And do you expect Dan Feeney to be starting week 1?
No, I think they'll probably have Lucas Patrick out there week 1 and Nate Davis and Patrick at center. Obviously, Cody Whitehair shifted over to left guard, and Nate Davis should be in place at right guard. I would think, if you had to ask me right now what it's going to look like against the Packers on September 10th, that's how I would go. What does it say that they go out and get Feeney? Well, they want a guy that can play guard and center, and he's got more of a track record, I believe, playing guard, but he does have regular season experience as a center, and so it tells you they felt like they needed that piece, and maybe for a couple reasons. The Jenkins situation, Lucas Patrick, while I think he's going to start week 1, was banged up some last year. He's had some minor issues here in training camp, so I think they're trying to cover themselves a little bit, and again, they're not going to give up a draft pick unless it's a guy they feel can come in and help them out. And he's making about $3.25 million this year, but about 2/3 of that swallowed up in a signing bonus that Miami paid. So that's a positive for the Bears as well.
I don't really care about the trade. I have a bigger picture question that stems off of it. The Bears gave up a 6th-round pick for veteran interior offensive lineman Dan Feeney. They have to shore up some of the depth at guard with the Tevin Jenkins injury. He can play both guard positions and center. If you look around the league, though, teams are scrambling, giving up draft assets for, let's say, bad offensive linemen. Bill Belichick sent a 4th-round pick for Tyrone Wheatley Jr., who has never played an NFL game. He also sent assets to acquire Vidarian Lowe, who was a rookie last year and played all of 33 snaps. When you see teams scrambling, desperate, giving up assets to get offensive linemen who, frankly, can't play, shot or no shot, the Bears made a mistake straight up cutting Alex Leatherwood.
It's a shot to me. Here's why, Cap. You and I were standing side by side in camp, watching Leatherwood, and you remarked to me, boy, he seems like he's slimmed down and a little bit faster. All I know is, as a college football fan, and anyone who watched him, that he was just an animal. He was a mauler. And I know it didn't work out with the Raiders, and I thought that he was turning things around. That's all the things that we were hearing, that he was turning things around. Boy, let me tell you, a team that is in need for offensive linemen, Leatherwood must have been really underwhelming for him to be cut when you needed bodies.
Especially with the financial commitment you had in him. For them to let him go, and again, they could bring him back after they pare the roster down.
Sure.
But when you let him go and he's already been released in a year by a team that spent a number 1 pick, who are we to sit here and say they made a mistake? They're in the meetings with him. They're evaluating him every day at training camp.
I just went with the positive stuff that we were hearing about him and what we saw from him in camp, and thought maybe this is a turnaround for him. At least get a spot on the roster. He must have been really brutal.
He must have been, or they have a plan to bring him back after he clears waivers. We'll find out.
Listen,
I don't think he's coming back.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not.
Did I read they're eating something like $5 million in dead cap to have cut him too?
Yeah.
Here's one thing about that Poles. He didn't care about that money. He doesn't care about, like, hey, if I'm going to cut a guy, if it's going to cost, it's going to hurt, but we got to do it. So
same with PJ Walker, $2 million. Here you go, get out.
I will not. I can't speak for the Bears from their standpoint. I will just speak based on what I saw and what I read about Leatherwood, and that I thought that he could still make this football team. He must have been really horrible for them to cut him when they are in need of bodies. That's my thought on it.
I just wonder, when you see teams really getting desperate to get guys on their O-line, could you have gotten an asset instead of cutting him?
No.
Either way, you eat the money.
And no, nobody was trading for him.
I just thought he's going to make the team. I didn't say start. I just thought he'd be on the roster. Guess not.
Yeah, I will ride or die with Ryan Poles on this one, for sure.
The play of our middle two defensive guys is getting a little bit better. Dexter and Pickens.
Dexter and Pickens,
It's my focus. It's going to be a year.
With Dexter?
It's going to be a year-long project.
Pickens.
Yep.
Pickens was in there a couple of times,
Yep.
but Dexter, I think he's. It is going to be a project.
Pickens.
How long, Yerk, is that going?
It's going to be the whole year.
To teach him.
It's the whole
that
year.
whole upright. He is so upright.
The whole year. I don't
Really?
like his stance. There's a lot of things I don't like about him, but he's at least getting off the ball well. You know, he was half second late in the first game. He's getting off the ball well. He's recognizing. I don't like how long he is in his stance. And when you're long in the stance, sometimes you've got to be able to work on a 45, and he's not working on a 45 very well right now. So 45 degrees, left or right, either way, is the way that you're going to have to move. So, you know, there's just a couple of things that I don't like right now, but he's getting better. He's getting better. He's getting better. And remember, it's going to take a while to get that crappy defense he played in Florida out of him. And it's going to be a year-long process.
If you look around the
Year
league,
long.
If you look around the league, a lot of the best younger defensive tackles right now, like Dexter Lawrence, Christian Wilkins, Quinnen Williams, they all got off to really slow starts to their careers and then just blew up by year
I think
3.
Why is that? You can count on one hand the defensive tackles that have been able to come in the league and kind of explode. And those guys are Cortez Kennedy, who was good right away. Warren Sapp, good right away. Even Bryant Young and Dana Stubblefield, two guys, took a little bit of time to get accustomed to the position. Leroy Glover took some time to get accustomed to the position. Donkey Kong Sue, the kid up in Detroit, was a force to be reckoned with early, but like 2 years in, then became a much more dominant player. You know what I'm saying? Albert Hainsworth was another one of those guys that took about a year and then started becoming a dominant. The guys that took a little bit of time, the two best that I can offer you is John Henderson and Marcus Stroud for the Jacksonville Jaguars in the aughts in like 2003, 2004 with Jacksonville. Those two were the best two defensive tackles they ever had, and they were a combination together for the better part of 8 or 9 years. But why does it take that long? Because it's not easy. It's a position that you don't get to play by sight. Once they snap the ball, playing the position by sight is gone. You got to play the position by feel and experience. That's why it takes that long. Because usually you're engaged and you're fighting and you're trying to feel what the hell's happening because you can't see what's happening. If you start getting on your tippy toes and you start peeking into the backfield, there's one direction you're going to go, and that direction's backwards. You're going backwards. The minute you get high, they're going to push you all over the place, and there's nothing that you can do. So I'm excited about those guys in the middle.
Ed Eberflus already spoke today. They may add another veteran quarterback to the mix, too. It may not just be those two. Waddle and Meller are very adamant that you must take advantage of the new rule of the extra roster spot on game day, that it doesn't count against, the 45?
Right.
That you're 46th as the quarterback.
46, remember they expanded to 46 a couple years ago, so now it's a 47.
47. So it's for your 46-man roster, you could have that free 47th guy if it's a third quarterback.
I just think
it's the Brock Purdy rule. Yes.
Yeah, and the manner in which our starting quarterback plays, I mean, there is going to be some physicality, which may lead to him missing some time. I think the nature of the position and the nature of how he plays the position, that it would probably serve you well to have that third quarterback available on Sunday.
The only thing I countered with you guys, and I was playing the just asking game, when you have a roster that still lacks depth in a lot of positions, I know they would have to be inactive on game day, or someone else would have to be inactive on game day. But maybe you would want an extra offensive lineman on this team. They're so hard to come by. The supply, and when you have an extra, when you are number one in the waiver department, when you are claiming one and there's a guy out there that you may want to claim, while, yes, you get the free spot on game day, he still takes up a 53-man roster spot. Is that better served on the 53 for another offensive lineman based on all these guys' health, based on their performance. We don't know if Lucas Patrick is good or healthy. We don't know how a lot of these guys are going to perform on the offensive line. So maybe I'd rather keep an extra guard. They just had to trade for a 6th-round guard. So if another guard clears through waivers and you have the number 1 claiming spot, instead of adding a 3rd quarterback, which I understand, keeping him on game day, but you're not going to, what are you really going to win this year? Are you better off having another lineman on your team or another position where you may not have all the depth in the world?
Well, it's a good question. I wouldn't say it's a great question, but it's a good question.
I'll accept good.
Okay. I mean, maybe you stack your practice squad with young guards or tackles.
But remember, they're pluckable then.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
So you decide based on, where your health is on Friday, where your guys are. Like, your offensive linemen aren't going to play special teams, so they only really serve one purpose, and that's to be in there to protect or clear space. So I think it would matter based on, how healthy everybody is. Look, it's a dance. It really is. It's a weekly dance that you have to do when you're talking about the final few spots on every roster.
Right.
It really is. I mean,
this is a name that I'll throw out there for the Bears.
Okay.
The Bengals released Trent Taylor, speedy, shifty, top-end punt returner. 5 punt returns of 20-plus yards last year, averaged 14.5 yards per return. Good special teams returner. They're first in the waiver claim. Not a great receiver.
Yeah.
No real productivity as a receiver. The Bears obviously have names in-house, guys that they drafted that maybe they would prefer to develop.
Yeah, don't you think Tyler Scott's excellent kickoff return helped possibly cement him as a returner in that role?
I do. But they're first on the waiver claim. So all they have to do is say, this guy would be a better punt returner than anyone we have, and he would be equal to our 6th wide receiver on the depth chart. So we'll make the move.
Yeah, I'm still unclear about punt returns, really, because they had even Simba Webster doing it.
Yeah.
Maybe they still dream of Vellis doing it, but he's not trustworthy at this point. Dante Pettis has been hurt, whether he's going to be a guy or not. So it's that is still a spot to be curious about.
I would say that because the Bears are so young and they are still closer to the beginning to the end of their rebuild, and they're hoping that this is the last time that they have the number 1 claim in the waiver order, I think they're going to put in quite a few claims.
You do, huh?
Yeah, I think that they're going to continue to churn the roster and look for marginal upgrades because there's not that many guys that they have to feel like they're completely, married to, and they can take on, an extra $1 million here or there for their cap space this year. Like Dan Feeney, the offensive lineman from the Dolphins, most of his salary was in a signing bonus that the Dolphins paid. So I think he was like $1.2 million. That's $300,000 over the veteran minimum. You know what I mean? That's nothing.
Right. Last year they had the 7th spot in waiver claims, and they claimed 7 players. Alex Leatherwood, who's already been cut. Armon Watts, who's gone. Trevon Wesco is gone. Jonathan Kingsley is gone. Sterling Weatherford still around, or has he been cut? Josh Blackwell is still here. That's 1 waiver claim from last year, who made a nice impact as an outside corner last year. So Josh Blackwell still has a decent shot to make this team today.
Yeah. So
and Amir Smith-Marset, who I said we were never going to mention again.
Yeah, he's not here.
Yeah.
I expect them to put in quite a few claims, and we'll get new names. The quarterback thing will be the easiest one to discuss because they probably will add a quarterback who we've heard of.
Yeah, I think it's the most likely of some of the highlight positions that often get talked about. Like, they don't need a running back. I don't really think they need a wide receiver because of the draftees. But quarterback, you could absolutely see them needing.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that they want a veteran. Tom Pelissero said that they're interested in Nate Peterman returning to the team, but we'll see if he ends up being able to come back.
Yeah, but to the practice squad, I think is the goal.
To the practice squad,
earlier.
yeah.
So Peterman to the practice squad.
But he can still be in the meetings.
For sure.
If he's on the practice squad, which is what I was most surprised with how the whole thing went down, was the the Monday through Saturday aspect of the quarterback room. Like, yeah, I understand that that's the quarterback coach and the offensive coordinator's job, and Fields is supposed to be a veteran and all of that.
Yeah.
If Tyson Bagent, he carried 2 QBs, man, that's just not a lot of experience in the room.
But I think it's whether this is a surprise to people or not. I think it's easier now to get Nate Peterman to the practice squad than it is to get Tyson Bagent to the practice squad.
Peterman is an established, known commodity of bad.
Correct.
Yeah, no one's going to say, oh, we got to get him. There's upside there.
And you're allowed to have vested veterans on the practice squad now. They changed the rules a little bit. So you can get Nate Peterman there. No team is going to be like, oh, I got to have that guy. I mean, maybe somebody would for the room, but that would mean that he's your third guy because you don't want him as your backup. So not cutting Bagent and letting him be your 2 from the get-go makes a lot more sense. If they do go out and they grab a veteran, then all of a sudden that means they are comfortable carrying 3, which I suspect more teams will be this year than last.
Dan Aguirre, what stuck out?
Well, first off, Peterman, as much as I thought, oh, that guy, when he was in Buffalo and Oakland, he can't play, but everything we've asked him to do here, he's done. I mean, he's looked okay every step of the way, is what I'm saying. If he's got to be your practice squad third quarterback, I mean, he started an NFL postseason game before, is what I'm saying. You could have there could be much less talent as your number 3. So
I remember Peterman when I went to the Senior Bowl, I believe it was 2018 or 19. I remember Peterman at the Senior Bowl, and all week long he had a really bad practice. And his early years in the NFL, he looked like that guy at the Senior Bowl. I do believe that as time has gone on, the game has slowed down for Peterman. I'm not saying, Lawrence Holmes last week on Media Mashup said 2-2. That's what you're looking for out of a backup quarterback. Peterman could be the 2-2 guy or the 1-3 guy. I'm just really, interested in seeing if Fields had to miss 3 or 4 games, could Bagent be that 2-2 guy? Could he be 3-1?
Do you think they should have cut PJ?
Yeah, I guess so. He had a really good quote saying, I can read the room. I know, stuff is up. I know people are talking and so forth. This was before he was cut. So he just, I think it was, I had high hopes for him. I thought, wow, it's very similar to Justin Fields in terms of athleticism, and had a decent year with the Panthers, but yeah, it didn't work out. I think it's probably a good move. You recognize it's not quite working, move on. Maybe something better comes on waivers other than Peterman, or maybe Tyson Bagent is like, wow, we really got something here, guys. Let's get rid of PJ. Maybe that's how they're feeling. People are.
I think I would have kept him.
Yeah, you would have.
I think so. Even if you thought, well, if Justin misses a few games, I'll go with Bagent, in the long run. I think maybe if it's the fourth quarter of Green Bay and for some reason, like, let's hot and Fields is cramping, I would feel better with PJ going in there in week 1 than I would Bagent. And I'm concerned, I mentioned this last night with Dan, I'm concerned that he's Caleb Haney 2.0. Caleb looked good against Green Bay in the NFC Championship game. We're like, oh, well, he's set. He's our backup. That's it. He's the backup. Donovan McNabb's out there begging to be signed by the Bears. He wants to come home. Yeah, we've got Caleb fucking Haney. And again, the 7-3 Bears went 8-8 with Caleb fucking Haney as the backup when Jay broke his thumb. It's another lost season because Caleb Haney was exposed of just being a bum. So I'm not saying Bagent is Haney, but it is something I'm concerned about. Because again, at least Haney's success was against the Green Bay starters in the NFC Championship game. Like, who has Bagent been beating? The third team members of, I just hope it's not an aberration that he gets in there and suddenly it's like he doesn't know how to drive a clutch and then the fucking car is going all over the road. I don't know why I'm using so many car analogies tonight. I apologize.
No, that's all right. I just think that the team is still in the midst of rebuilding, and that acquiring a proven backup quarterback and a third quarterback to help you get to the Super Bowl, because you've got all the makings of a Super Bowl contender like those Lovey teams had. I think it's less of a priority. I think you can now is the perfect time to have a quarterback like Tyson Bagent who could maybe beat Kurt Warner, who could maybe surprise you and win those tough games down the stretch when your number one quarterback is out and you need a couple of wins to get into the playoffs. Maybe he's that guy. And this is a good time to test it, because you don't want to do it when you've got a Super Bowl ready team. You want to have that a backup quarterback who has had success, who has faced big games, who has that experience. Eberflus talked about the importance of experience when he was heaping praise on PJ Walker a week or two ago. Well, let's see maybe if Bagent, if a backup quarterback needs to get into the game, let's see maybe if we can give that experience to Bagent.
Doesn't Bagent look like, when you see his picture on, or if he takes his helmet off, it's like, man, am I watching a high school game out there? He looks like he's 17 years old. I mean, I keep wanting to make Mike Tyson jokes with his name because it's so not him. Like, he's the baddest man on the planet, Tyson Bagent, but it won't even stick, man. It's just because he looks so young.
He does. He looks like, you ever watch, like a movie or a TV show about a high school football team, and you look at guys on there and say, those guys look way too old to be on high school. You could put Bagent in the movie and he would look like a high school student.
This guy really is in 11th grade.
That's right.
I did like the quote that you tweeted from one of his coaches, though.
Yeah, wasn't that cool? Which one was that?
It was something to the effect of, they think he's never been able to implement game plans before. Like, he's never been able to make adjustments before. How did he get to this level, you fucks?
Yeah, that was his offensive coordinator from 2021. He was pissed off at what Eberflus said, because Eberflus had said in today's press conference, to the question he responded, what do you want Bagent to improve on? And he said, well, he's going to have to learn how to adjust to the new offenses we're going to be putting in every week and the schemes behind it. And he didn't do that in college. And his offensive coordinator was, it's because we're dumb fucks.
On Winning Time this week, or when it was showing Jason Segel going into clubs and shit and suddenly being happy that he's like the star. I'm the coach of the Lakers. I'm Paul Westhead, and he's going to the Forum Club. I feel like this kid's going to be like, I play for the Chicago Bears. Now can I please get my first pussy?
Earlier, Jordan asked, do you really so Dan must have really loved compiling Bagent highlights in West Virginia. This is when we were talking about your high school football. Get that.
He played in Martinsburg. It's the complete opposite end of the state. I would have no reason to follow him.
Oh, okay. And then Tooch just put up that. What did he put up? Dan is throwing shade at a fellow of West Virginia.
No, I want him. It's a great story.
Yeah,
like you said, it's like Kurt Warner going from grocery store to Hall of Fame. This guy goes from the Eastern Panhandle of West Virginia to at least backup. I mean, I would love for him to do something, but if I'm writing a script, he suddenly just drifts into the abstract and stays on the bench, and Justin is balling.
Yeah,
that's what I hope.
Or you could have a scene in that script where, Jesus Christ, I should have it queued up.
The other day we were doing tubs and sauna together.
All right, Tooch is ready to come in with his Bears state of affairs. Tooch, bring yourself in there. You got your.
And the mic is going to be on.
Yeah, it's muted right now. I'll tell you that. It's still muted. There it is. Tooch, how are you, man?
Hey, everybody. Doing good. I was on spent some time with both of my radio sons last night on South Burbs Hitmen.
Oh, nice.
Vinny and Joe.
Uh-huh.
Those
How
are my
did that
two of my children. That was fun, man. We talked fantasy football for like 2 hours.
Really?
Yeah, it was great. A lot of great questions from, myself, the two other guys, and the chat room. So really great.
Excellent. Good. South Burbs Hitman every Monday night until the White Sox are officially out of it here on the Barroom Network. Tooch, I understand you have a Bears State of Affairs.
Ready when you are.
I am ready now. Let us roll your little open here that people have DM'd me and said, that is really cool.
It's just to mute automatically during that little roll,
Actually, I was laughing at what Kenny said. Kenny said this damn episode is making me wish the stroke took out Aldo.
Wow. Oh, Kenny.
I love you, Kenny. Whatever the fuck you are. All right. Take it away, Tooch.
All right. Bears State of Affairs offseason week 33. What's happening? Bar flies. Oh, well, the Bears finished out the preseason last weekend with a loss to the Bills, 24-21. The game saw Josh Allen march down the field in the first quarter on a 12-play, 72-yard drive, with the Bills converted 3 third downs during that drive, which finished with a Damian Harris touchdown run. On defense, the Bills stifled Justin Fields, causing Dan Aguirre angst. Yeah. And the Bears offense, as the team struggled versus one of the league's top defense. Yeah, there were some bright spots, however. Left tackle Braxton Jones really looked good in pass pro and in the run game, too. The second-year tackle from Southern Utah looks headed toward an improved season, protecting Justin Fields' blind side. Was one guy really stood out for me. And the rookies were making some noise in this game. Rookie quarterback Tyson Bagent led a late second quarter touchdown drive with the Bears down 14-3. And cornerback Tyreek Stevenson continued his strong preseason with nice coverage and an interception. Rookie Tyler Scott got in on the action with a nice 56-yard kickoff return. The loss to the Bills, though, rightfully gave Bears fans cause for worry. The Bears, as usual, had plenty of things to fix before hosting their arch rivals, the Packers, on September 10th. Today, though, is cut-down day across the NFL, as teams needed to get down to 53-man rosters by 3 o'clock. Some notable cuts by the Bears included backup quarterback P.J. Walker and former Raiders first-round pick Alex Leatherwood, who was trying to find a spot on the Bears' offensive line. And reading between the lines, what's notable about these two cuts is that they signal a sea change for the Bears organization. Both of these cuts will cost the Bears close to $7 million. In the past, the Bears organization would gravitate toward keeping players and might cost the team money if cut, even if they were underperforming. Yeah, rewarding players based on performance sends a great message to players that hard work will be rewarded, and everyone has a chance to make the team if they perform well. But Tyson Bagent, he simply outplayed P.J. Walker. And it's possible that the Bears felt Bagent showed better command of the offense. Perhaps Walker needed more time in the offense. Who knows? But Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus were not willing to risk losing Bagent to another team had they tried to sneak him through waivers. And this move, it's balls out, throwing caution and balls to the wind, making an undrafted rookie free agent quarterback the sole backup to Justin Fields. That's ballsy, Poles. The most concerning issue facing the Bears currently, though, is the rash of injuries along the offensive line. How serious is Darnell Wright's injury? When will Tevin Jenkins be healthy enough to play? A few days ago, Jenkins was spotted for the first time in a boot as he was leaving the Chicago Bears locker room. Remember last week, I said the one thing that Dan Aldo and I feared and could possibly affect this young Bears team's hopes tremendously were injuries along the offensive line. Additionally, 2 out of 3 Bears centers can't snap because of Bears injuries. And that's the same injury the third guy had last year. Let me just say that again. The Bears have 2 out of 3 centers who can't snap because of hand injuries. And the one guy who can snap had the same injury last season. Yeah, the Bears' luck at the center position recently is so bad, and I'm officially calling this the Mustafa curse. Yeah. Well, Doug Kramer, who played well enough to make the 53-man roster, injured his hand in the Bills' preseason game, the same injury that forced Cody Whitehair to move back to guard. Lucas Patrick, the other center, had the hands injury last season. Patrick appears healthy, but his play hasn't really been good. How do we know that? Well, Ryan Poles sent a 6th-round pick to the Dolphins yesterday in order to acquire guard center and Feeney. Yeah, look at this guy. This guy is sure to be a fan favorite. Yeah, he comes complete with a mullet and a porn stash. Yeah, no, I never worked with him in the business, although. Plus, kid from Orland Park, Illinois, and went to Carl Sandburg High School. Instant fan favorite. That's a good move, one of many that Poles has made since becoming the Bears GM. Feeney is a former 3rd-round pick of the Chargers out of Indiana University. Has spent time with the Jets, too. All in all, the Bears kept 10 offensive linemen on their 53-man roster, signaling no concern over injuries along the offensive line. And in final cutdowns, the Bears said goodbye to Travis Gibson, who logged the most quarterback pressures on a team in desperate need of pass rushers. Gibson had recently, quote-unquote, requested a trade, or maybe not, who knows. But the Bears were unable to find any trade partners, or so they say. As well, Travis Bell, the 7th-round pick out of Kennesaw State. He showed some flashes, but was waived. Hopefully he'll be a part of the Bears practice squad. Other notable cuts included Dan Aguirre favorite Kendall Vildor, who played quarterback Nathan Peterman and linebacker Micah Baskerville. While the Bears released a bunch of players you might have really liked, so did the rest of the NFL. Yeah, and the Bears have the top waiver priority. So if there are any players on the waiver wire that might interest the Bears, especially in areas of concern like, say, offensive line, yeah, or safety or defensive line or pass rush, the Bears get first crack at those players. Yeah, the next few days are going to be really interesting, and that is Mr. Aldo Gandia, Bears State of Affairs.
Beautifully done, Johnny Santucci. That was one of your better ones. I might, if I were to go back and list them all, I'd have that in the top 3, maybe top 2.
You know, it's funny because I was whenever I write these, I'm thinking like you and I, Dan, maybe somewhere down the line, I'll be like, you know, it kind of chronicled, you know, the Bear, what was going on at the time, you know, in the world of the Bears, you know, because you know, you give a little. You know, it's a Bills game and the waiver moves and, you know, the injuries on the offensive line. You know, not that Dan Aguirre needs any help remembering any of his stuff from that photographic memory.
It's awesome.
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit more about these cuts because, Dan, what's the one player, 2 players, whoever that most surprised you?
Walker was a surprise. And Gibson, given all the drama, I guess, and maybe isn't. But if he really didn't ask for a trade and he performed on the field, I know that you showed the clip with Alan Williams basically saying, he's beating 3rd-teamers, so it doesn't matter. It still kind of surprises me. Baskerville, from what I could see, was playing fairly well. But again, maybe it's because he was at the end of the game. I don't want to say I'm happy to see anyone cut, but I thought Ebner didn't have it.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe he gets put on the practice squad. I figure for some reason they love Webster. He'll probably be brought back in the practice squad. Leatherwood was a surprise, again, with all the problems that we've had. You know, we've talked about it ad nauseum already on the line. The Iceland guy, I feel like for every time I see him, I just feel like he doesn't have it either. So I'm not surprised he got cut. But that's the long answer. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. Excellent thinking there. You know, it is sad about Dieter Iceland. But by the way, I misspelled his name. I wrote Dieter Eileen.
Come on, Eileen.
Yeah, I love that song. You'll have to flash the lyrics to Come On Eileen. They're really dirty.
Oh, really?
That song, yeah. It's like I'll take off your red dress. You know. there's all this. It's really kind of a dirty song if you watch it. It's hard to understand what he says because of his Irish accent.
Right.
At one time,
The
I had to flash the lyrics up because I didn't know what he was saying. I'm like, damn, this song's filthy.
The dirtiest lyric I've ever heard okay on FM radio, there was this guy in the early 90s who just went by James. That was it, James. They used his music in the American Pie movies, but he had a single called Laid, and the opening line in it is, she only comes when she's on top. And they let that go on FM. Like, we could play that, but you can't say like, Kelly Clarkson, my life would suck without you, because suck sounds too much like whatever. But she only comes when she's on top, though. That can air.
Yeah, I love that song too. That's another good one.
That's funny.
Yeah.
All right. So, and Tooch, you went through all the players, but anybody else that you want to comment on that hit the?
I hit him in Bear State of Affairs, and man, I mean, the roster tells a lot if you're reading between the lines. Okay, so 10 offensive linemen, man. I don't even think, I think they might need one or two more. I'm just saying, we got one tackle. We don't know Darnell Wright how injured he is. You have Larry Borum. If Borum or Braxton Jones gets injured, who's jumping out there? Tevin Jenkins is injured too. If you think about it, I don't know. I think that another offensive lineman might be coming. It's tragic the amount of trouble we're having on the offensive line. And one thing that we said was, in order for the Bears team to take another step, Justin Fields, he's got to take another step in the passing game. He showed that the hesitation. He's not. He doesn't like the doesn't see the window open. Well, NFL opens a lot different than college open, but I can't remember who it was that had that play up there. It was diagramming that play, but man, that was textbook. He needed to hit that guy in the slot, on that flag route, and he didn't pull it. He running, went to running scrambling too quickly. But the surprise, I mean, PJ Walker and Peterman gone, but Peterman will probably be back on the practice squad. But like I said, it's a balls out move to just have Tyson Badden, an undrafted free. I love the kid too. Don't get me wrong, but I thought we'd at least have maybe someone else. PJ Walker's a surprise because I wasn't sure whether he would get cut, but I don't think he quite had a grasp of the West Coast offense. He was kind of just winging it out there. While Badgett maybe outstudied him in the classroom, and had a little better command, or maybe it was something he ran at Shepherd. A pro style offense. And then Travis Gibson, who the guy had the most pressures, logged the most pressures this offseason. I didn't see anything from Rasheem Green that would, give me any cause to get rid of Gibson. But like you said, attitude might be got him shown the pink slip. But other than that, not much surprise. Travis Bell.
I wish that guy from Nigeria would have made it just for the story. I think his first name is Roy, not to criticize Tooch's list here. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Bravion, but I know he was from Nigeria, so I was rooting for him just for the story.
Yeah, what is his name not on the list?
I think Roy's his first name. I think it's in the second column.
Gotcha, there it is. Yeah,
it's flip flopped. Yeah, I was rooting for him because it's a good story to have someone internationally playing, but again, maybe he isn't that good, but I was hoping he would be.
I would have kept Travis, but
yeah, those are probably the two cuts that sting the most is Travis Gibson, because when he was drafted, I think it was in the 5th round by Ryan Pace, I really thought he was going to be a good 4-3 defensive end. Now, the rumor is that he wants to get back to the 3-4 defense that he played in his rookie year. I don't know if that's true or not, but I had high expectations for him, and he looked really good in the preseason games. But again, I'm not at OTAs, I'm not at practices, I'm not in the classroom, blah, 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 which all goes into the evaluation. And then Kindle Vildor, there was just a soft spot in my heart for Kindle because I interviewed him at the Senior Bowl, and then lo and behold, the Bears draft him. And Jim Nagy, the senior executive director of the Senior Bowl, kept telling me, be patient. Be patient. He's kept telling me, all Chicago Bears fans, be patient. This guy's going to turn it on. It's going to turn on. Well, he never did. And then the other thing, Michael Ojemudia, the kid from Iowa, I'm a little shocked that he was released, but I got a feeling that a lot of these names that we've just been talking about of guys that we are sad to see go or concerned that they left, those guys will be on that 16-man practice squad. A lot of them will be. I truly believe that.
Hopefully the Fountain guy will be, because he showed a little bit of skill.
Yep, I really like that guy. Spotted him last year when for a Buffon 55 show. We were going to talk about all the injuries to the Bears, and so I just as a little exercise went to every team's practice squad to see, not every team, all the teams that had good passing offenses, good receivers. I went to all of their practice squad rosters, and there was a guy named Doris Fountain. And so I did some research on him, saw some highlight clips. So on the Buffon 55 show, I said, I think the Bears might want to consider bringing in Doris Fountain. And John Buffon said, who the fuck are you talking about? Doris Fountain. He expected, somebody like a guy with a name. Anyway,
College of Northern Iowa, right here.
That's right.
Cedar Falls.
Yep. Was it Northern Iowa? Oh, okay,
yeah.
I thought it was Iowa State. All right, I want to share. Let's see, it's 9:20. All right, so we got. You guys want to talk about the roster at all, or you want to play this little game I put together?
However you want to drive the car is good with me.
All right. Just thinking.
I wanted to comment on Dan's angst and second.
Please do.
I second that emotion, Dan. Totally. I was so happy to hear Dan say this because I'm thinking the exact same thing. One, I'm super worried about the offensive line. I think because of injuries, we're dangerously thin. An area that we can't afford to be thin. It's the one thing that we talked about all off season of improving. And then, the pass rush, we haven't seen Yannick Ngakoue and some of these other guys, DeMarcus Walker. We haven't seen much of them, but Travis Gibson was a guy that was giving you some pressure. We didn't draft an edge rusher in the draft. Instead we drafted 3 defensive tackles. I know Eberflus likes to have pressure on the quarterback from his defensive tackles. But we basically got 3 defensive tackles that weren't really ready, to do much this year. So my expectations are slightly lowered. I was thinking, if all things go right, and it's the NFL, it's the Bears, things never go all right for the Bears. Everything never goes all the way right for us.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Now, Eberflus was asked about those the injuries to the 2 defensive ends and how concerned was he about that?
Yeah, it was limited, right? You didn't really see Walker, in the training camp. He was injured. We saw Yanni a couple, in practice. We saw him in a little limited action there, so it's limited right now. But would you wish you would have saw more? Sure. Definitely wish they were going the whole time, but it wasn't. That wasn't in the cards this particular training camp. So those guys are going to be, and they have been working with the training staff to get their conditioning right, to get their levels right, and then also working with the coaches to get their technique right as we go through the lead up to the first game.
You have confidence that that's going to work, that those guys are going to be who you think they'll be, or do you not know that based on how little you saw of them?
Based on where they are right now, we like where they are. And it is where it is right now. So we got to make sure we do a great job of ramping them up conditioning-wise and getting them ready to play for the first game.
Dan Tooch, are you any less concerned now about the pass rush?
No. I will say, I mentioned this earlier. I think I really want to hit this point, though. It's distressing to me that if you ever express any criticism, the prevailing thought is, you don't know what you're talking about. The preseason doesn't matter, you dumbass. And I just feel like it's valid to acknowledge all the things that are happening right now. To me, if you're a Bears fan and you're expecting them to win by 35 on September 10th, based upon what? What gives you this confidence? Because I want it.
Well, it would be based on the feeling that they have in training camp. The what we can't see when the players go up there and speak with confidence about they expect to get off to a good start and have good games and so forth. It has to be because of the camaraderie, teamwork, all of that stuff that you do in practice and in the classroom that has them feeling. Now, when Bears fans say it, I can't speak for them, so I don't know. But I do think that judgment should be reserved until after we've seen them play 2 or 3 games. Sort of like what Cliff said. Let's not be too morose about how things look like now. He's going to reserve any negative comments until after we've seen them play in a regular season game with their starters, with the scheme in place. We'll see. I mean, the Bears Super Bowl team was 1-3 in preseason, so. And that's the 85 team. So
I know. But I'm going to be riding and dying with them, as they say, as soon as the season starts, regardless if they're 0-17, God forbid, I'm still a fan. I just think it's illogical for me to ignore everything along the way, which is what these preseason don't matter people are espousing. And I just can't subscribe to that theory. Like I'm ignoring, it's like, yeah, I haven't gotten a cancer diagnosis, but everything along the way says I've got heart trouble, I'm breathing bad, and all not really, by the way. I'm just saying as an example, like you have to see the signs of things that are going wrong and acknowledge them, though.
No, I don't argue with that one bit. All right, so that soundbite from
hold on 1 second. I just want to there was a guy on X who posted every snap of Tremaine Edmonds in the last game. And I gotta say, oof, brutal. So
that was brutal.
Paid a lot of money for Tremaine Edmonds. He looked like he could play at all, man.
Yeah, he looked really, really rusty. He was getting caught up. Yeah, he was getting caught in player screens on crossing patterns. He was a little late in reads, but I do think that.
And why is that? Because he didn't participate hardly in the preseason.
No, he was hurt.
I know, but as a result of being hurt, he wasn't playing.
You can't help that, though.
No. I'm not saying that he was faking or something. I'm just saying, but to me, that's an example of what I'm worrying about is we're hoping that he just figures it out again in week 1, and he hasn't been out there, and then suddenly he turns the light switch on and maybe he can do that, but it's legitimate concern to question if can he really do that?
No, that's why we're here. We're here to express our concerns and then talk it over, and hopefully we'll feel a little bit better by the end of the show. If not, that's bless you.
I think we will next week because it'll be Bears-Packers week, and then at that point you kind of get in your bunker, like, hey, this is the side I'm on, so fuck that other side, and fuck Pat O'Donnell, by the way. I'm glad to see that he was caught.
Yeah, who knows? He's not a traitor.
He's a traitor. Him and Adrian. Where's Adrian Amos, by the way?
I don't know, but is Steve McMichael a traitor? Is Mongo a traitor?
Absolutely not. Mongo said he was getting free money that year.
You gotta go where the money is for your family's sake. This is a job. It's not fucking Cub Scouts. All right, so here's what I want to do. I was watching the ESPN. I don't know what show it was. A show on ESPN. I think it was Get Up, and they have an over/under segment. So I'm going to ask you guys the over/under. We're just talking about the defense, the defensive line. So the over/under, guys. Team sacks this year, 40. You think it's going to be over, or you think it's going to be under? Now that would be double the amount of sacks the Bears had last year. They had 20, and the Eagles led the NFL with 70. So what say you, Johnny Santucci?
I'm going to go with under in this one. Sorry. Nancy, but
more and more people are turning off the show saying he's fucking negative Nancy's.
Fucking Tooch.
Any reason why you don't see this team doubling the amount of sacks that they had a year ago?
Just talent along the defensive line. I mean, the best pass rusher we got is Yannick. He's probably good for 9 or 10. But a bunch of other guys got to really step up. That leaves 30 for the rest of the other guys. You need to have another guy in double digits. probably,
Yeah.
or close to double digits for us to get near that.
What about you, Mr. Dan Aguirre? What say you?
I say it's under, but I'll put them in the 30s though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they'll be better, significantly better than last year, because it's hard to be that poor 2 years in a row. But I don't think that they're ready to come out and start hitting 70 homers here either. So I'm going to say they get somewhere between 30 and 35.
Well, Andrew
I agree
Billings.
with Alan Williams' assessment there from Michael, by the way. I have no confidence in Alan Williams at all.
A lot of it depends on Alan Williams scheming pressures, and coverage. So guys,
I wish we had Flores from Minnesota, who left for Miami. He's the Vikings' new DC. I wish he was our DC.
That's another guy that you and Jordan agree on. Jordan Silvera is a huge Flores fan.
And he's going to be bringing the heat, the pressure.
He will. Here's a reason perhaps to have a little bit more confidence in the defensive line. This is Andrew Billings talking about those two rookie defensive tackles.
Run game, pass rush, just working together, seeing them out there together because, they're the future of this team. They're going to be here for at least, 4 years. So just having that, cohesiveness that they're developing right now is huge. And they both seem to be doing it pretty quick.
Is the vibe any different this year with this team and this defense than any previous teams you've been on, as far as just how good you feel about what this team can do? Anything about it that really seems real? I'm saying that you can tell is just definitely going to be there and not just kind of.
I mean, honestly, the biggest thing is it's the rookies. I mean, just the way they're eager to learn. I've been around a lot of rookies, and they all want to learn. Don't get me wrong, but it just seems like they're going home and really thinking about it. And you tell them something one day, and they come out and they're working on it, they're trying to fix it, and then you don't see it in the game. And that's what pros do. Your coach tells you something once, you work on it, you fix it, and the next week it's eliminated. And I'm seeing that in the rookies, which is huge for me.
Anyone in particular of those rookies that you think? I know you think they'll all do well, but anyone you think will really be a breakout player? As far as first time in the NFL,
I mean, I'm not going to put pressure on them like that, but it's up to them. I think they both have the abilities to do it, and I think they have the attitude to do it as well. It's just we got to see what comes forth.
Excuse my misspelling there on Jervon. That give you a little hope that a veteran defensive lineman is saying these two rookies could really turn into something, and it could happen this year.
Well, you played Yurko's assessment of Dexter. He's going to be a project that is going to take all year to make into a pro in your system. So
that's right. Yeah. That
sort of mitigates his praise there or negates it. It's like they cancel each other out is what I'm trying to say.
Sure. I what was interesting in this last game, one of the reporters asked Eberflus, you had the two rookies each playing a 3-tech. Now, why did you do that? And he says, well, it's because, as Tooch was saying earlier in the show, the Bears like to get that pressure coming in up the middle so that the quarterback cannot step up in the pocket and instead is forced out. And that gives Yannick and Dexter and Rashid, all those defensive ends, an opportunity to get a sack or to keep him in that pocket by setting that edge and forcing him to stay in the middle and make an errant throw. And then Jalen Johnson gets one of his much desired interceptions in his contract here. So it's very interesting. So I got you both down for under, right?
Yes.
All right. Yep. So let's turn over to the offense and see, what about Justin Fields? Do you think he's going to get over or under 3,500 passing yards? Remember, he had about, I think it was 2,300 in 2022. What say you, Dan Aguirre?
Man, I hate to be pessimistic because I was wanting 4,000 so badly because the Bears have never attained that as anybody in the history of the organization. After what I know it's just a preseason game, I'm going to say under. I'm sorry, under. It doesn't mean the Bears can't win. It doesn't mean Justin doesn't have a great season. But when he's missing wide open men like that, I just don't see him hitting 4,000. I hope I'm wrong. I hope we play this tape back and we say what a big fucking moron I am in January. Please let that come into fruition. But I'm going to say under.
Cliff says, I'll pay prices right and say I win both showcases with a 3,500-yard bid. What say you, Johnny Santucci?
It's only about 200 yards a game. when you think about
That's-
it. A little over
that is
200.
Great point.
208, maybe 207 yards a game, which
Mm-hmm.
is really doable. But the way the offensive line is trending, I would have to say I'm leaning towards under with the injuries on the offensive line, and just Fields really has to take that step in the passing game, man. This whole season hinges on Fields taking that step in the preseason game.
I couldn't agree with you more, please.
Yeah. And then you know the measuring stick for whether he's taken that step is the Packers bookends to the season. You know, you got the Packers the first game at home. If we lose that, you know, it's going to be a sour note. You know, and the haters are going to come out. If we win the game, it's going to be like, all right, they're going to be high stepping towards the next game, and hopefully you know they build on that for the coming games. And then, you know, you finish up with the Packers, and if you haven't improved at all, you know, and the Packers up there probably end up whipping our ass.
Yeah, well, we'll be talking a hell of a lot more about the Packer game next Tuesday.
It's definitely doable, though. 3,500 yards, definitely doable.
Can I say one more thing on this before you turn the topic?
Please.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Say that again, Tooch.
I said at this point in time, I'd be forced to take the under, though. I think it's definitely doable, 3,500 yards, because only about 205, 207 yards a game.
Right. What about you, Dan?
For 2 years now, I've been a chronic excuse maker for Justin Fields. You know, Matt Nagy's stupid ass, and that's valid. The offensive line, no receivers, everything we've said before was a valid excuse. There's no more excuses, man. There's no more excuses. I'm going to say down until you show me. It's time for you to ball. It's time for you to prove everything, all your supporters, and I include myself in that category, as being someone who's like, dude, this guy has got so much potential. He's got charisma. He's got the it factor, but he doesn't back it up on the field. Not yet. So let's see it. Let's fucking see it for real. Sunday, September 10th. He doesn't have to throw for 400 yards, but just look like the quarterback we want you to be. Let's give us some hope.
And Michael Henneman says, you know, Fields just needs to win games. He'll throw for under 3,500, but if you win, who cares? I agree with you, Michael. I don't care. I mean, it would be nice to get a 4,000-yard quarterback, and you know, the only team in the NFL not to have one. That means a little bit, but yeah, win games first and foremost. If he's winning games with him rushing for 15 times over 150 yards every game, I'll take it and just continue to develop Bajan, because he's not going to last long in a year in the league.
I'd like to see him break Kramer's record for most touchdowns in a regular season,
which is
29. We don't even have 30 touchdowns in one season as a Bears quarterback. At the very least, Justin should be able to get that.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say Justin Jefferson of the Vikings might have 30 touchdown catches this season.
And like 8 of them will be against the Bears.
Yeah, probably. All right, let's stay with the offense on our over-under game here. And the next question, or the next over-under, is about DJ Moore. DJ Moore had, DJ Moore had 1,193 receiving yards in his best season with the Carolina Panthers. Do you think he's going to go over on those receiving yards or under? And he, in that season, was one of the lowest receptions that he had in his career with Carolina. So he was averaging almost 19 yards per catch. He was a big play weapon, doing what he did in that first preseason game, catching these short passes and then just getting huge yak. So again, we are asking the question, and Tuch, I'll start with you. Will DJ Moore have more than 1,193 receiving yards in the Lord's year of 2023?
I'm going to say over. He's a yak monster. So that's like less than 100 yards a game. That's what, like 80 yards a game, maybe?
I love the optimism. So almost half of the passing yards Justin Fields is going to have this season are going to go to DJ Moore. Probably 35% is your math genius mind telling you?
Yeah, roughly. I mean, he's like heads above the rest of the of the core as far as like route running, speed, hands. You know, I mean, it's all the other guys. He's like so far above the other guys. You know, all the guys are just guys. When you think about it, he's a clear number one wide receiver. You know, that's what we wanted. He's a number one wide receiver. I wish we had a guy that was a number two.
Ooh, Darnell Mooney is not doing it for you?
He's all right. Claypool, they're okay. They're more like third wide receivers, though, to me. I mean, I want a guy like T. Higgins to a Jamar Chase. You know.
Mm-hmm. What say you, Dan Aguirre?
I still have hope for Claypool if he can get out there and stay healthy, that he could show in ball that he could be the number two. And Mooney's in a contract year too, so I don't want to count either guy out. And to answer the question, DJ Moore, do I think he can catch 1,200 yards? Absolutely, yes.
I love it.
Yep, I'm over too. I'm just saying, like Claypool to me is a guy who could have 10 touchdowns. I don't know if he'll get to like say 800 yards receiving. You know, he's not a guy that's going to be, 10 catches, 120, 150 yards a game. I don't think. He's more of a 800 yards or 800 yards a season, maybe 10 touchdowns. Because in the red zone, you know, Claypool is a good target. I mean, like him and Cole Kmet are going to be. You know, they're going to be looking for the Justin Fields. Better be looking for those two down in the red zone. We're doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm. Well, I got to tell you, Chase Claypool better have a good year, because if he doesn't, this is a contract year for him. He's traded by the Steelers. He's going to have a hard time making $7 million next season if he doesn't have a really good year. He's got to prove a bunch of doubters wrong. All right, let's get back to this over-under game. Let's talk about the Bears' rushing attack. Total yards rushing. They had 3,014 in 2022. Do you think it's going to be over or under with these three great running backs, or very good running backs, and Justin Fields running the ball? Dan Aguirre, start with you this time.
I'm going to say slightly less, because they'll be able to pass more than they did last year. But if the Bears are successful, they will be running the ball again, and that includes number one, because that is a staple of his game, and he's a fucking beast. And then I still think I like Johnson, the guy we drafted. I like Foreman from Carolina. And, Herbert has shown that he's okay too. Like, I like the backs. I love the running. I love the quarterback. Let me just say that again. I love our quarterback. So I'm going to say less, though, because the idea is he's going to throw more.
Yeah, and I have a bit of advice for fantasy football players. Do not draft any of the Bears running backs, because it's just going to be so difficult to predict who's going to get the carries, who's going to have the big day, who's going to, get hot and they'll ride. It's just going to be so unpredictable.
Because you're going to draft all of them in the fourth. On the barroom draft. Don't draft any of my guys, man.
What say you, Johnny Santucci? 3,100 yards, 3,114.
That was like historical last year, the amount of rush yards we had. So I mean, it's gonna be hard to duplicate. I'll tell you, if other teams are watching the Bears preseason, they're gonna shut down the run. If they watch last year's tape, they're gonna shut down the run. They're gonna contain Fields. They're gonna force Fields to throw. So that's how you beat the Bears right now. That's what, I guarantee you that's what defensive coordinators are thinking right now, because that's what I would do. I mean, I'm not a defensive coordinator, but it seems pretty straightforward to me. Rushed for 3,000 yards last year. If you have trouble finding the passing ability, shut down the run and make them throw. So I would say under.
All right. I like that. Got you down for under. Both of you guys down for under. All right. Let's see what else I got here. I've got, Jalen Johnson has been talking about turnovers. And in fact, his slot cornerback, Kyler Gordon, was asked about Jalen Johnson and his focus on getting more turnovers this year, because he's only had one. He only had one last year, a forced fumble that he recovered. This is Kyler Gordon talking about Jalen Johnson's emphasis on creating turnovers.
We always just talk about being the best and what it takes really to be the best. And I think we can definitely see a lot of differences between last year and this year. as far as our chemistry, what we talk about, the information that we're all displaying to each other in the room, and how to, work with each other well, and, a better level of understanding as far as communication and stuff like that. And, you can definitely see it a lot if you've been at practice and stuff like that between our whole secondary group. And, he's had a ton of picks and a lot of great plays and during practice and this preseason and stuff like that. So he gonna ball out. Our whole secondary gonna ball out. Like, I'm just excited. Yeah.
All right. So the question is turnovers, 6, over or under. He had now 0 interceptions last year. He had that 1 forced fumble and 1 recovery. I guess that would count for 1, right? The forced fumble doesn't count as a turnover. So what do you say? Who starts first this time? Tooch, what do you say? Do you think that Jalen Johnson gets over or under on 6?
I'd love to see it. I tell you, I'm gonna go under. I mean, they're gonna throw at the rookie. I mean, Stevenson is a rookie. They'll pick on him until he makes teams throw the other way. Johnson, I love him. He's a good cornerback, but he's not really a turnover guy. So I'm saying under, but I would love to see him get more, especially in the contract year.
Interesting. Dan Aguirre, what do you say?
I hate to just keep repeating the same thing that John is saying, but it's just lined up that way. I say less. I would like to see Jalen Johnson do enough to get an extension here and earn it, and not be like Nate Vasher and get the deal and then suddenly just fall off the face of the earth. But I hope that he excels, because he's our draft pick. And if we're ever going to win another Super Bowl, you got to keep re-signing the guys you drafted, right? That's what the winning teams do. But on 6, I don't see it. I'm going to say less than.
Yeah, if he uses 33's punch, might get him, Punch.
Well, and that's one of the things he's talked about, and he demonstrated that in the last preseason game, when on one replay you saw him punching at the ball trying to create that turnover. So if he could get 3 interceptions and force 3 fumbles, man, that would be so huge for this team. All right, got a couple more here. Sacks allowed. We've been talking about this offensive line. What do you think? Are the Bears going to allow over or under 33 sacks of Justin Fields? They allowed 58 last year. So we're asking for a dramatic come down. Dan, I'll start with you.
I'm going to say less.
Less than 33.
Even though there's all kinds of drama and everyone's confounded on who's going to start, I say everyone that's not in the building. But then again, maybe they are too, because they're trying to figure out who's healthy. I just feel like they're going to find a way to protect him a little bit better than last year. I mean, I guess that's significantly better, but I just believe the Bears are not as bad as people think overall before the season's over with. And having said that, that comes with protecting Fields or Bajan or whoever the hell else is in there. I hope it's just number 1. But I'm going to say, even if it's 30, it's less than 33. So I'm going to say less than.
All right. What do you say, Tooch?
Well, boy, the injuries along the offensive line would suggest that it'll be over. But, Fields' escapability suggests under, and hopefully he's grown another year. But that'd be like 2 sacks a game about really if they I'm going to say over.
Okay.
But I think the number is pretty sharp. It's probably right around there, although.
All right. I hope that a week from now you guys will be in a better mood, a little more optimistic. But I certainly cannot dispute.
Dan and I just text each other storm clouds now, although storm cloud graphic.
Oh, speaking of that, I got to bring my weather girl back. I haven't had her. I promise to have the weather report for every Bears game as soon as the regular season begins. All right, I want to play for you another couple of sound bites from today's press conferences. There was some pretty cool stuff. This is, let's see. This is Robert Tonyan talking about advice that he's given his fellow Division II football player, Tyson Bagent.
We actually had a good long talk the other day. We were doing like, tubs and sauna together, and he was just kind of asking about, my path and, slightly a journeyman a little bit, I would say for myself, but just kind of giving him that confidence of, anything can happen. Preseason is very big, and with the little amount of reps that you get, you kind of have to make a splash. Not anything out of the ordinary, but just being consistent with those reps, those minimal reps you get. And obviously that worked out for him, because when he was in there for a little bit, he was making plays, and then he got more opportunities in those preseason games. And then you see him leading, the offense down and scoring, in the Indy game, and then here at home. So, yeah, he's a good kid. He's a gamer. What's good about him? He was from a D2 school, and he played a lot of football. It's not like a guy who was just starting like a handful of games in Division I and then getting drafted. He played a lot of games, had a lot of success, so he has a lot of football under his belt. The other day we were doing like tubs and sauna together.
I don't know. I'm a sucker for any new Bears quarterback, and Tyson Bagent really is starting to intrigue me a lot, just simply because I'm worried about Justin. I'm worried after him missing that wide open slot receiver downfield. I don't want to see that anymore. Toot, you got some thoughts on Tyson Bagent?
Man, like I said before, it's how would I believe that I don't know whether I believe it that Bagent will be the whole guy the whole season. Who knows what Poles is thinking? I mean, quarterbacks are getting cut like Will Greer and Bailey Zappi, and who knows if Poles get flavor of the month. Right now, I love it. The kid's is smart. Another thing in the back of my head is like, what if he processes better than and sees the open guys better than Justin Fields?
Yeah.
Maybe he just understands the game a little bit better. You have to stick with Fields. I mean, there's nothing you can do. We're invested in him for the foreseeable future. Justin Fields, by all accounts, he's a super hard worker. He loves the game. He loves being a Bear. It's everything you want. Just we just have to see that. You have to see that step in the passing game, man. That's the whole key to the whole season. The linchpin, the keystone, whatever. It has to take that step.
I agree. Dan Aguirre, you're always talk so highly about young players and prospects and so forth, but I really haven't heard you talk highly about Bagent. Are you in the Bagent? I hope Bagent's going to be a great player kind of camp.
Of course, I hope if he's a Bear, I want him to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not buying in yet. I mean, again, if for some reason, if something terrible happens and he's playing, I'm going to be cheering my ass off for him. But again, the specter of Caleb Haney or somebody like that just shines brightly over him right now. To me, I am just, and the fact that some people are like saying he's better than Fields right now, like I repudiate that. I don't see any way that this kid could be better for the Bears right now.
I agree
than Justin Fields is.
That wasn't what I was saying. I'm just saying, like, what if in the future he does process the play better? I don't know.
I didn't mean to imply that you were one of those. I apologize.
No,
I wasn't grouping you in there. There are people on Twitter right now that think so.
The chat room they're like, it's ridiculous. That's not what I'm saying, man. I'm just saying we haven't even seen Bagent throw downfield yet. And, defenses are vanilla schemes and offenses were vanilla schemes. But, I mean, there's flashes enough to work. And then, the field isn't that open guy and just tucking it and running. That's enough to give you a little concern. That's why we're all here tonight, among the storm clouds.
Indeed. All right. Here's another one I want to play. This is Robert Tonyan talking about, today was cut day. And so things are pretty somber around Hallis Hall. And Robert Tonyan was asked about what he recalls regarding cut day when he was a young player in the league.
It was like another player who got cut. And then he used like the same text and copied and pasted and sent it to me. I literally went into the office and handed in my iPad, and then everyone was like excited to see me, and I was super confused.
What do you say to someone?
No, I didn't say anything. This was 2008. Yeah, 2018. I had a really good preseason, and they basically told me like I was on the team, so I was like cool. And then like I'm at home like playing video games with my buddy, and all of a sudden like I get that text, and I literally drove like so mad to the building, like handed in my iPad. Then my tight ends coach and the GM are like super excited to see me. I was like, this is weird, but yeah. So that's what happened.
I made a mistake there on the lower third Super 8. He was a Packer then. It was a Packer that played a prank on him in 2018. He first was signed as an undrafted free agent by the Lions, and they cut him before the season started. And then the following year, he signed on with the Packers and played pretty well for them. Hopefully, he'll play even better as a Bear.
That terrible organization up there.
Oh, they fucking assholes.
Yeah, fuck them.
Wow. Who sent the text? Was it a player, a coach, or player?
He said it was a player, a fellow player. So they were just pranking him.
It's probably Rodgers.
But we were talking about exhibition games and how poorly they've looked. The one thing that you can't deny, because it's less about scheming to win. You've got that going against you, but when the pass hits you in your hands, Robert Tonyan, and you drop it, that's what worries us, And so it doesn't take, playing alongside the rest of the starters or whatever. Execute the fucking play and execute it precisely. That's one of the things that Eberflus has started as a theme in his press conferences is what they are looking for is precision. And when they record all of these practices, they want every play to be precise the way it's drawn up. And that includes catching the ball. So come on, Robert, don't.
Who's Kenny, man? He's really giving us the shots. He wants Aldo dead. He says that we returned against fucking Fields. It's like, it's not true, Kenny. It's like, look,
he's got a couple of drinks in him, he said.
Okay. All right. Time to quit.
Yeah, really. But it is cool how Beijing gets rid of that ball, that quick release that he has. As STC says, he's throwing darts. That is nice to see. And as I put up on Twitter, and a lot of people liked it and retweeted it, is, it's in my lifetime, I don't remember there ever being a time when a backup rookie quarterback, when a rookie quarterback won the backup job, it was always we're paying the veteran, and so, we got to save that salary and stuff. And Flus was asked about that.
Kyle Orton count? Or wasn't he?
No, he was
the starter as a rookie.
Well, I know, right. But I mean, he wasn't going to be the starter. He was forced to be the starter because of injury, right? But he was.
The point is, Rex got hurt and he was the backup because they cut Hutchinson.
He made the backup, as a rookie.
Right.
And then actually made starter too and played okay.
Yeah, I don't remember who he beat out that year. That's a good
Chad Hutchinson.
Chad Hutchinson. Okay.
Hutchinson cut. He had a terrible final preseason game. They cut Chad and started KO, and then Jeff Blake was the backup.
And kept the fourth round Kyle Orton, right? Because he was drafted in the fourth, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Well, this was Eberflus today asked about, cutting players like PJ Walker when he had signed a $2 million guaranteed contract.
Yeah, I mean, we say that all the time, right? And I think that just shows that it's true. Because, we're going to play, the best guys that we feel are going to help our team. And we're going to make decisions that are best, that we feel are best at the time for the Chicago Bears. And I think we held true to that. And we're going to try to do that most times. And sometimes you're not able to do that at times, but and this time we were. So it was worked out.
You say that. A lot of coaches say that. Not a lot of coaches follow through on it. The actual action does send a message.
Yeah, we try to be very mindful with all our actions and how we communicate with our players, how we talk to them, how we coach them, how we visit with them about how Ryan and myself visit with those guys. Ryan, of course, first with the contracts, and be very upfront and honest with those guys. And like I said, put everything on the table and just go eye to eye and tell them where it is. And it's good when you can do that. And we do that most of the time.
so proud of this team that they made that decision, that they said, fuck the salary. This guy looks better. He's responding well at OTAs and in classroom and so forth. Let's see what we got now. Who knows? Maybe they'll pick up a veteran tomorrow and throw away another $2 million.
Yeah.
I say give Bajan the number 2 job and don't look back. Put Nathan Peterman on the 53 and not have him active. Have him active as a third quarterback. You know, let's try this. Let's fucking try it.
How many times did we say, the Bears were, too cheap to get rid of guys, with big contracts and stuff do, what was, 100 proof. We'd always talk about that,
Absolutely. All the time.
Aldo,
Yes,
on
sir.
Winning Time this week, the way that
best episode so far.
Really
was
good,
the
right?
past week. So good.
the way that Paul Westhead is portrayed in terms of like, I'm in control here. I'm the coach and I have to be in control. And like, no one really respects him. And it's just like, everyone knows that he's not the guy. Isn't that Matt Nagy?
Yes.
I'm the coach here. I'm the bald fuck. I'm the one who I was coach of the year. Westhead's like, I won the NBA championship. But it's like, I was like the whole episode. I kept drawing parallels with Matt Nagy in my head.
I love when he had dinner with his old partner McKinney, and they're at some hamburger joints, and he's like, I'm gonna expose you. It's like just a little bit at a time, It's like, and then he's like, "What should I have? Oh, some chicken. You want to split some chicken wings?" It was just a great scene, man.
That was a great scene. I mean, that show really is so fucking fantastic.
My favorite show on TV right now.
Yeah, same here. I urge everyone who is a sports fan or just likes good drama to give Winning Time on HBO a shot. You will now have, if you haven't watched season 1, that was 10 episodes, and they've got 8 or 7 this year. So you'll have 17 episodes of really good acting, really good storytelling. And season 2 is probably, I love season 1, but I would have to say season 2 is probably better just because, as Jeff Pearlman told us, they're sticking to reality a little bit more. There's not as much exaggeration or the messing with some of the real stories. So we will, 2 more episodes, Dan, or 3?
3.
3?
Because they're going to finish with the 84 final. So they're going to win the title in 82 against Philly. Philly's going to get Moses from the Rockets and sweep them, though, with Dr. J and Moses in 83. And then we know 84 is how it's going to end, or at least maybe game 7 and they leave us with a cliffhanger or something. So they've got to get through 2 more seasons in the next 2 episodes just to get to 84.
Yeah. Praying for a season 3. So everybody, TTNL in the house, watch Winning Time, Jay Sanders, Renewable, Cliff, Eric, all you guys. I want you guys reporting here next week.
It's so good. The actors are so good. Man, the guy that plays Magic is so good, man. So good. And the guy that plays Bird is awesome too. And Kareem, man. The cast is so good.
Yeah.
It's the best cast I've seen in a long time. I love it, man. Yeah. John C. Reilly and Adrian Brody, both the Jasons, Siegel and Clark, are so good, man.
Yeah,
I forget the other guy who plays Bill.
Bill Sharman.
The partner of Jerry West. The actor's been in a ton of movies. Character actor. I can't remember his name, but he's awesome too.
He's excellent. He really is.
Jason Siegel. This last episode, Jason Siegel acted his ass off. It was so good, man.
Yeah.
Westhead going crazy. It was like, do you know what Cortez did when he landed and saw the Aztecs? Whatever, Adrian Brody's like, no, what did he do?
His character.
Almond tree bears fruit in silence. The reporters are like, what the fuck is that?
Westhead early on in season 1 could be viewed as a sympathetic figure.
Yeah.
He's like trying to rally the group, and he's given a job that he knows he's not prepared for. And how do I salvage it and not let everybody down? But suddenly he's got this massive ego that stems from lack of confidence somehow to compensate. And now he's like every asshole that you dislike that you worked with at whatever job that doesn't deserve where he's at. He's related to somebody or whatever. So now he's almost a villain. So I'm glad to see him get fired next week.
So TTNL in the chat room. So I want you guys to guess who could be masquerading as TTNL, because I got a pretty good feeling I know who it is.
What's the guy that's all retro? It's retro.
Exactly. It's got to be retro. Expose yourself, retro. Expose yourself.
Right.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
What else have you seen, Dan, that you like besides Winning Time?
That's about all I've watched. I haven't had a lot of time to watch TV other than the Bears and Winning Time. I've been doing a lot of overtimes to try to pay for some Chicago stuff coming up, Ubers and things. I did rewatch a movie I haven't seen in a long. I know you've seen it, but I hadn't watched it in a really long time. It was on TCM recently. I rewatched Escape from New York.
Oh, I saw it too.
I watched that with my wife recently too. She never saw
it 2 nights ago. It was beautiful.
I watched it like a month ago.
Yeah, I was reading that Carpenter he said that Escape from New York or Escape from LA was better, and I just wholeheartedly disagree.
No way. Yeah, no way. Yeah.
No, let me tell you something. That movie, the Snake Plissken character is one of the best characters, as anti-hero type characters of that era. Just Kurt Russell is so fucking cool as Snake Plissken.
Yeah.
It is fantastic. Adrienne Barbeau, every time she appears on the screen and her titties are jiggling and that push-up bra, it's just amazing.
That's John Carpenter's wife.
Exactly. And God bless you, John Carpenter. I think they're divorced now.
Oh, they got divorced. That's when she stopped getting roles, unfortunately.
Yeah. Cliff, I'm with you, man. It's a movie to watch over and over and over. And so the other night it was on TCM, and I said, you know what? This might be fun to watch again. I haven't watched it in 15, 20 years. And it just was so good. Now, I do believe that the last third is not as quite as good as the build-up and so forth, but nonetheless, it's still fantastic.
You got Donald Pleasance as the president. I like that too.
Isaac Hayes, right?
Yeah, Isaac Hayes,
right?
That's the dude.
Harry Dean Stanton was Brain.
Yeah.
Late Ernest Borgnine was Cabby.
Yeah. That's why TCM was running it, because they were running an Ernest Borgnine marathon. They do in the month of August. They pick a movie star, and for 24 hours they run their movies. And so Borgnine, that was, I think, the last role that he did before he passed away. So he was pretty good in it. So
it was good.
stuff.
81 was Escape from New York, 1981, I think. I'm just guessing.
That sounds right.
Maybe 82, but this is like Kurt Russell coming off of doing Disney movies, where he was wholesome movie roles. That he goes and does Used Cars, another fucking hilarious movie if you ever saw Used Cars.
Awesome, hilarious.
Jack Warden and Kurt Russell.
Yes.
So funny.
Dan, you ever seen Used Cars, the movie Used Cars with Kurt Russell?
I have not, actually. I wanted to praise the Carpenter in his early films, whether it be Escape from New York, Halloween, The Fog, The Thing. Yeah. They always had a great score. He was so good at the score. Yep. Like, that's what made Halloween.
He wrote a lot of the music himself.
I know.
That was his original compositions.
Escape from New York, when things start to pick up, whenever you start to see Isaac Hayes, he has like this drum beat that starts coming in, and it fits so well. Like, that's what I thought watching it. Was like, man, Escape from LA had a good soundtrack, like music wise, but the score of Escape from New York is 100-1 over the score from later on. Like, his work early on, his scores were just phenomenal.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, that was early 80s movies, or like that kind of period. There was some great, like, first you had these like post-apocalyptic type movies like Escape from New York and The Road Warrior, who have that kind of like, that was just starting that kind of stuff, the genre, the beginning of the genre. Then you had some great comedies like Used Cars and Caddyshack, Meatballs. You had some great comedies then. We haven't done good movies like that in a long time.
Yeah. What about Big Trouble in Little China, Dan? That strikes me. I was gonna say, Dan,
I don't think Dan would like that though.
That's what I was just gonna say. Yeah.
I saw that on HBO a lot back in the late 80s, early 90s. When I was a kid, I liked it fine.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it since like Bush 1 was president, so I don't know.
I love it, man. It's just a B movie, fantasy. It's
Yeah.
great. Kurt Russell's hilarious in it. He's wearing those suede fringe boots the whole movie.
Yep. When my daughter was 5 or 6 years old, I took her to see the movie, she and I, and to this day she always talks about how much she enjoyed that movie. She's got a poster of the movie. So yeah, it's a great film to watch with a kid, and just a great film overall. Good stuff. Tooch, what have you seen that you want to share with the audience?
Whew, man, I gotta think. What have I been watching? Let's see. Well, I like mysteries, Aldo. I like those Harlan Coben mysteries. I was watching. He's got that one that I've been watching. That was the kids, the high school kids. I think it's called Shelter.
Yeah.
That's really good. So I was like, that one comes out. Usually those Harlan Coben ones are on Netflix. This one's on Amazon Prime, I think. And it's serialized, so I've got to wait until the next one comes out. But that mystery is actually really good. And Deanna, I think Adrienne Barbeau is in Shelter as the grandma. I can't remember. I think she's the grandma in Shelter, but she is. She's the grandma in Shelter on Amazon Prime. Okay,
can you find us a picture?
Aldo maybe can.
Yeah,
find it. Adrienne Barbeau in Shelter. She's almost 80 years old, I think, 70s, late 70s, mid to late 70s. And then
do you want to see her nude at 80 years old?
Sure.
And then there's another one on Netflix called
Raquel Welch, I would have.
Which is also a really good mystery. He did that once. Harlan Coben did that one, Safe, with the guy from Dexter. Do you remember? It was in England too. The mystery.
I hated that. I hated
it.
that.
It was good, man.
I loved it.
Where he had the British accent, I thought that was awful. I thought that was atrocious.
I love mysteries, but when it all comes together and stuff, there's all these, both these movies have like a bunch of like fringe plots that are all kind of like interrelated, and then they come together, But that's like.
I loved that show, but yes, the accent by what's his name was awful, man.
Yeah, I loved him on 6 Feet Under and Dexter, and I like Dexter New Blood. That British show, I just loathed.
Well, what's his name? It's Michael something.
Michael C. Riley, maybe.
Michael
C. Hall.
Michael C. Hall.
Yeah, Michael C. Hall. Yep.
Yeah. Is that her?
Yeah. Is this from Shelter?
It didn't say what show it was, but that's what I put in Google.
I gotta look it up on my phone. I'm pretty sure she plays the grandma.
Yeah,
I would still have dirty fornication with this lady.
You want her to wear that dress, though, right?
Just don't smell bad. That's all. She looked so good in the 80s. I loved her in Creep Show.
Yeah.
When she's the drunk that Hal Holbrook wants the monster to eat her.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And she's like, I couldn't do it without me. I'm Billy. She's the drunk, and he finally gets the fucking monster under the stairs to eat her.
Yes.
I thought she was so hot in that, though. Like, I don't know why. And then, like you said, in Escape from New York, every scene, she's like, hey, by the way, these are my fucking mammary glands. Take a look.
That's right.
Yeah.
She's
in Shelter. I was right. Okay. She plays.
She was naked in Swamp Thing.
Grandma.
Was she totally naked?
She showed her breast. And she's in a really horrible, horrible movie with Bill Maher. Cannibal Women of whatever the fuck from like 89. But I think she showed her tits in that too.
Wow.
Bill Maher is so bad in it. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like, Bill Maher's so bad in it, you would think that his performance in House 2 is like the next story is worthy of an Oscar compared to what he does in that cannibal movie.
I agree with Leo Factor here. I mean, Megan Fox is attractive, but I don't understand, she's just okay. I don't know what it is about her. She's beautiful eyes and stuff, but I don't know. You guys Megan Fox fans?
She's hot, man. She's doing that I drink blood thing the way Angelina Jolie and Billy Bob Thornton did circa 2002, where she's like trying to be so edgy because they drink blood. You know, I mean, that shit could give you hepatitis. Let's just be honest.
That's right.
And I'm still waiting for Billy Bob Thornton to release the director's cut of all the Pretty Horses so I could get the full. You know, the studio cut it from like 3.5 hours down to like 2 hours and 2.5 hours. Something like that. It's like an hour of missing footage. It was beautiful filmed.
If I were Billy Bob Thornton, I would have drunk Angelina Jolie's blood too. What am I saying?
Of course you would have. No,
her menstrual blood to start with.
Jesus. She was in the Sons of Anarchy? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. I didn't watch that show though. I knew Manson had a role.
What are you gonna say, Tooch?
I thought that was Katie Sagal who was in Sons of Anarchy, right?
She is.
Okay.
I'm just assuming she was also.
Okay.
Or Mr. Mayhem. Anyway. Okay, I did see something that might be of interest to you guys. It's called How I Live Now. Have you guys heard of it? It's about 10 years old.
Heard about it.
And it's with I don't know how to pronounce the name. Sarisi Ronan. She's American Irish. Was raised in Ireland, but she was born in America. She's got that beautiful, thick Irish accent, and it's a love story set among the apocalypse. She plays an unruly teenager who is going to spend the summer at her aunt's house, and her aunt has 3 kids, and she doesn't want to be there. She treats them in a disrespectful manner. Concurrently, there is some global incident between the superpowers, the country superpowers, and so people are concerned that there might be a war breakout. Well, just before that war breaks out, she falls in love with one of the 3 kids at this house, and the rest of the story is about their journey through the apocalypse and trying to find themselves when they're separated and so forth. It's not a bad movie. I would give it a 6 or 7 out of 10 stars or 3 out of 4 or whatever like that. So if you're ever looking for something and it just happens to pop up, How I Live Now, especially if you're into science fiction, might be worth your 99 minutes. I think that's the running time.
Are you all caught up on Winning Time too, Aldo?
I am. It is appointment viewing for me every Sunday night, and I can't wait to do a rewatch on the series. That and Silo are 2 series that I just recently finished. Silo. I want to do a rewatch on that, and then Winning Time.
Sucks that we can't talk about Silo, about that ending of season 1. You know?
Yeah.
It's like I want to talk about it so bad, but we just can't. We'll spoil it for everybody.
Yeah. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Watch this shit.
I mentioned Hal Holbrook.
Yeah.
I watched a half a movie with him because I like him. It was one of the worst films I've ever seen. I had to stop it.
What was it?
He was in a horror film, not Creepshow, but in '76 called Rituals.
Yeah, that's the one I talked about. Remember, it's like Deliverance.
It's terrible. I had to stop it.
Yeah, it's
it was
horrible.
so bad.
But it was like I didn't even know this film existed. You know, that was when I talked about it. I don't know, what was it, like months ago, 6 months ago? I talked. It's like, Aldo, have you ever heard? It's like
I remember
78 or 76, somewhere around there. 77.
It was bad. It was so
like
bad.
Cannibals and stuff, right? It was. It's basically Deliverance with a bunch of like rich guys out on a little like fishing trip or hunting trip, whatever it is they're fucking doing out there. And like Hal Holbrook's like the action star, which is like totally unbelievable because, you know, he's Hal Holbrook. But speaking of Hal Holbrook, Adrienne Barbeau was the girl that he in Creepshow that
I just mentioned
his
that.
wife. Yeah, his wife in Creepshow. It's like Billy. You know, Billy, take a look at the crate, Billy. Right?
Yeah.
He fed his wife to the monster.
Yeah. Season 9 of Suits is where Cliff Victoria is at. I've never seen the series.
Yeah, neither have I. It's on Netflix now, though.
Right. Wasn't that like a TNT or TBS type show, and now it's on Netflix. Suits.
Oh.
You ever heard of it, Dan?
No.
Yeah, I think it's about lawyers and stuff. See, I have a thing now about shows that are made for the broadcast networks and for TNT, TBS, and so forth. When you watch Netflix, series that are produced in HBO and Showtime that are produced for adults, these series that play it too safe, it just doesn't feel right to me.
It's watered down bullshit.
There you go. Well said. Better said than I did.
It's like John Shoop's 2001 offense.
Exactly. Cliff says it's like L.A. Law. So I don't know.
I heard it was good. I haven't watched it.
Oh yeah, that's weird that it hasn't been on rerun with all the TV stations that are out there. There must be something expensive going on.
It just came on Netflix.
Oh, really?
Within the last month, they bought the rights to it, and now it's it was like a big news story because I don't know. People were really happy that they picked. Fans of the show were really happy that they picked it up in syndication.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, pound to pound, every episode is good. I know neither of you guys watch the show, but Outlander is so freaking good. Although you and your wife should watch it together because my wife and I watch it together. It's so good, man. The stories are so good. The characters are so good. The acting is so good. The stories are great. But it has a lot of great things where you're just like, oh, no, and stuff like that. You really get into it. It's every episode is good. There's not a bad episode. There's been 7 seasons,
We'll definitely check it out. All right, we are about 10 minutes from the close. I'm going to start asking for final comments now so that I can get out of here and in bed by 10:35. So I'll start with you, Dan. Any final thoughts on this huge day with roster cut downs or anything going on in your life that you want to share? The floor is yours.
I remain pensive, but hopeful for the Bears season. Again, I don't want anybody to think, he's so negative and like this. That's not what I'm trying to put out into the world. It's anxiety about what I'm saying, but that does not mean like I'm thinking, they're going to be 3-14 now, and that does it. There's nothing else we can do. Now, this isn't my sex life. This is the Bears. But with the Bears,
it's just as heavy though.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Like maybe next week I'll just be on the bandwagon and hopeful and like fuck the Packers but right now I'm just really worried. Maybe in the next day or two the roster will take some shape because maybe we pick up another 2 people or something and then that restores like just blind hope. But right now I have nervous optimism. That's not to say I don't think we can't. I'm not saying the Bears aren't going to beat Green Bay. It's just I'm scared. So I'm not confident in it, but I think it's like 50-50, but I'm there, I'm going to be there, and go Bears for God's sakes. I think, can we just get one of these? And that's what's on my mind. And more than anything, like, of course I could come on here and bitch about 39 things in my personal life, but this right here, even over money and stuff, supersedes that right now. Like, just get a win, because when the Bears can get a win, you could be going through so much shit in your life. You could be Aldo with open wounds and an arm you can't raise right now, but by God, if you beat Green Bay, that's going to make that pain feel just a tinge bit better without weed.
Indeed. Dude, what do you got for me?
Man, I'm right with Dan. I'm right there with you, Danny. I share. I'm a little bit angst filled. Like, after that first preseason game, I'm like, yes, we're going to be fucking good this year. And, it kind of like shifted down. So I was brought back down to reality because, like I said, I was greedy. Like Fields had 2 long touchdown passes and stuff. People were scared of him scrambling and whatnot. And now it's like the offensive line has the injuries. Pass rushers have the injuries. And those are 2 positions that, aside from Darnell Wright, they ignored in this draft. Edge rusher and offensive line, they just grabbed Darnell Wright.
Mm-hmm.
And that has, it looks like it's kind of come back to bite them a little bit. And I don't know whether they thought they're being clever and they can maybe sign free agents or sign guys who are cut now, but They should have at least invested a pick or two in the last draft on those, an extra offensive lineman, at least one edge rusher. I mean, we were clamoring for edge rusher during the draft shows, and they didn't grab one. They grabbed 3 defensive tackles, but they didn't grab an edge rusher, and I think we could have got one.
The problem is, John, as you know, there wasn't anyone that was graded higher than the defensive tackle. So I don't think they went into the draft and said, listen, let's make sure we grab 2 defensive tackles. If they're really doing what they say they do, which is put together their board and then pick based on player evaluations, then it is what it is. And it's like Poles has said all along, we're not going to fix everything in one draft. So it's going to take a while. You just can't pick a player for the sake of picking a player.
Well, they threw three free agents at the position, with Walker, Ngakoue, and Green, hoping that it would, do something. And even, I guess you could say Terrell Lewis as well, too. They're throwing 4 free agents at it. So, but the next few days will be interesting. It's exciting to think about. Maybe they'll pick up somebody to help with those areas, whether it's pass rusher or offensive line. I mean, we just grabbed. So I got to ask you this: we picked up Feeney. Is he a guy you think would have been cut? We have number 1 waiver priority. Could we have grabbed him? Obviously, Poles didn't think, he was going to be cut, so he threw a 6th-round pick at the Dolphins. And I mean, I'm glad he did, but I'm wondering if you guys think whether Feeney might have gotten cut and shaken loose. We had the number 1 priority. We could have just claimed him on waivers.
What do you think, Dan?
I like the trade.
I do too.
Period.
Yeah, I'm not complaining. I like the trade, like the mullet, like the porn stash. I'm sure it's going to be fun in the tubs and saunas. Guys.
And Kramer made it too, right?
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Yep.
All right, so we've got, in theory, 4 guys that can snap in a pinch.
All right. Exactly.
Yep.
This is somebody put up on Twitter his last preseason game. Feeney. This was put up by at I'm Bearing Down. Every one of the snaps is up on Twitter, and I got to tell you, I've seen this a couple of times already. The guy looks really good, at least in this preseason game against the seconds or thirds, whatever. He is sticking to his blocks.
Yep.
Nobody is getting past number 67, and on run blocking, he's sticky. And when he has to get out to the second level, he's not as quick as maybe, Braxton Jones or some of the other very athletic offensive linemen the Bears have, but he's okay. He's not bad at all. So I don't think that this was a bad move at all. And the fact is that, it's those high draft picks. It's the 1s and 2s and 3s. Those are the ones you want to be reluctant to trade away. And to trade away a 6rounder for a guy with this experience and this much versatility, left guard, 60% of snaps, 25% at center and the rest at right guard. That's not a bad investment.
Yeah, I'm not saying. I was just posing the question, but I'm glad he went and got.
Good question.
He really had no choice, basically. With injuries.
Right. I think that the feeling was that there might be some other team that would have jumped ahead of them in a trade because offensive linemen are so desperately needed by so many teams. So he probably he probably felt like some other team might beat them to the trade. And so I think it was a good aggressive move. I put it up there with dropping PJ Walker and eating the salary. It is what it is.
Aldo, before we go, tell us what you think about Fields right now. I know you didn't give us your opinion on the questions at the time.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit worried. But I do think I'm going to stick with my guns that I said 2-3 months ago. I think he is going to pass for about 3,800 yards. I think this team is going to win into the 12 or 13 or 14 wins. I think that there's a very good chance that this team could surprise us and get out to a quick start in the regular season and have some meaningful wins in the midseason and end strong. That's a fan talking. If you want me to take on the role of an analyst, well, of course they're going to win 6-7 games. But I prefer to be a fan right now. This is the time of year I want to be a fan. I'll start talking more rationally after we've lost 3 or 5 games or something like that. So that's where I'm at.
I still think we're thin at offensive tackle. Unless you think Ja'Tyre Carter can play some tackle. I don't know.
No, he's a guard. He's an interior offensive lineman only. And I think there was.
Maybe they think Tevin Jenkins would play some tackle if he had to as the 4th tackle.
If he had to, yeah. It's I wouldn't be at all surprised if they make another move for an offensive tackle. We'll see what happens. Tomorrow's going to be a big day.
Yeah.
And speaking of tomorrow, it's going to be Gabriel Talks Football at 3 p.m. Ryan Poles is talking to the media at 2. So we're going to go on immediately after, not immediately after, but a few minutes after Ryan Poles' press conference. And then Mac and Reed are going to evaluate the roster at 6 p.m. And then the season premiere at 7:30 p.m. Central. John Buffone is back.
Woo-hoo!
And it's a totally revamped show. Danny Shimon is now a part of the show. I will be strictly back screen and doing some video roll-ins, some reporting on the opposition. So it's a revamped show with Alyssa Barbieri coming back for her 4th season, John's 7th season, and Danny Shimon's 1st season with Buffone 55. So that'll be at 7:30 Central. Hope you can join us live. And if you can't, on demand, just like this show is on demand. So let people know about what we're doing here on the Barroom Network. If you like us, if you don't like us, then keep your mouth shut, please. Dan Aguirre, I love you. I got some scripts for you that I'll send you maybe tomorrow, some barroom stuff. Tooch, tell us about the weekend sports betting tips real quick.
Yeah, Friday nights, I think Sean's kid plays football down in Houston, so I think Thursdays he's watching his kid play on like freshman or sophomore team in high school. And so we usually do Fridays, like around 7 Central. Last week I gave out 2 winners, man. 2 easy bets too. It's like the Ohio versus San Diego State under 48. It finished with 34 points. And then San Jose State over 16.5 points team total. They had like 27 points. So yeah.
Let me a piece of advice for you. When you announce that you had 2 winners, don't look so surprised. Don't look so surprised. Because I had 2 winners.
Well, it's week 0, college football. You don't know anything, about the teams. But yeah, it was. I mean, these teams are like the opposite happened in a bunch of other games. So
I'm just thinking about promos. I want to cut together a promo, and there's Johnson. I had 2 winners last week.
Yeah, 2 free winners, man.
Yeah, I love you. Let's get out of here, everybody. Have a good day at work. Good night at work, I should say. Saving some lives. Tooch, I know you're as busy as ever at your job.
Yep.
And to my wife, who just celebrated her 60th birthday this past weekend, I love you. We'll talk to you all later. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you.